is I would prefer victims
Dude.
of rape to have access to abortion compared to me having access to TikTok. And guess what? They
Oh,
don't
go
have
ahead
that in
and take
13 of our
guys,
50
please. We'll
states
get in.
because he overturned Roe v.
We'll
Wade.
get in.
Sure, I have access to TikTok,
Ugh.
but I would prefer the 10 million low-income Americans that lost access to healthcare to have access to healthcare compared to me having access to TikTok. Sure, I like my access to TikTok, but I would prefer
Do you think
143 million Americans that have lost purchasing power because of the Donald Trump's big beautiful bill to have more purchasing power compared to me having more access to TikTok. I would prefer myself to have access to TikTok, but frankly, I would prefer the 160 girls that were killed by a U.S. Tomahawk strike in Iran to have access to life compared to me having access to TikTok. I'm
okay?
sure you get the point.
You want to thank guests, so go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I'll
That's
go ahead
what
and take a moment to do that.
deflection, deflection, deflection. But go ahead.
Well, if me thanking my donors was a deflection, then you would have made a point prior to me thanking my donors, but you didn't.
No,
You
no,
just told us that you're a Trump
we're
supporter.
gonna stop it.
Okay.
And you went in third
Yeah,
second
this
rant
clown
about.
just doesn't know what a deflection is.
Go ahead. I'll let.
Thank you. Alexandra, thank you for the $15. I appreciate you. Thank you, Alexandra. Ike, thank you for the $2. Show some love to Ike. Zachary, thank you for the $5. He says, you're amazing. Please keep doing what you do best. Thank you, Zachary. Then Jared, thank you so much for the $25 on Venmo. Who says, maybe Iran should announce the only way that they'll negotiate is if the negotiating party is Obama. That would be crazy. All right. I mean, Obama did negotiate with him before. That's a fact. Thank you for the $25 donation, man. Show some love to Jared down below. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then Heidi, thank you for the $5. And oh my God, Wayne, thank you so much for the $1,000
Oh
donation
my
on
God,
Venmo.
that's crazy.
Oh my God! Show some love to Wayne in that chat. Bruce Wayne is back in the building. Wayne, oh my God. Dude, Wayne, I remember you. I fucking remember you. Oh my God. I hope everything is well, man. It has been so long since we last talked. Wayne, like a year ago, would come in here and just drop, like, dead ass the craziest fucking donations ever. Dude, I gotta send you a personal message, Wayne, because that is just like, so, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, dude, I don't even know what the fuck to say because of how insane that is. That is like dead ass, like a majority of my rent. Okay, that's like food for 3 months. Dude, oh my God, dude, please, for everybody watching, I want y'all to show some love to Bruce Wayne in that comment section for like at least the next 30 minutes. Cause like, holy fuck, Wayne, brother, I'm gonna send you a personal message. You already know it. I don't deserve that. Clearly, I'm so very privileged and so very grateful for your kindness and generosity. I'm going to send you a personal message. Thank you for the love, bro. All right, dude, take it away. Tell us why you support Trump. Dude, W. Waynes, take it away. Tell us why you're MAGA.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that's so. Let's stick with your topic. How do I still support Trump? Because he didn't just get here, right, Dean? He's been here for quite some time. Um, and I've debated ever since, Jack owned Twitmo. And I got to tell you, if you go back 3 decades, like lefties like to do, let's do that. Do you realize that Donald J. Trump, and this will only take about 30 seconds, so if you need to jot these why I support him, feel free to. He stood alongside Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali and received the Ellis Award for his contributions in the landscape of New York. And Muhammad Ali isn't somebody he kicked Malcolm X away. So these two people stood alongside Donald J. Trump to get the Ellis Award. And if anybody's not familiar with Rosa Parks, she's huge in the civil rights. Muhammad Ali as well. And Donald J. Trump stood with them and got the Ellis Award, which is Ellis Island. In case anybody doesn't know, it's not a person. And secondly, whose plane do you think flew Nelson Mandela around? That was Donald J. Trump's plane. Okay, so this man has been doing good things for so long. On September 12th, 2001, whose money was helping Donald J. Trump's? Okay, he took in Jennifer Hudson also, when a lot of her family was unalive, she didn't even trust the police at that time. He took her in. His property manager was going to kick out a squatter, and he stopped her. And I think she recently passed, but she stayed there for a long, long years after that. And this man has been through so much. When he was loved, and all of a sudden he becomes a public servant into office. And what's the first thing that happens to this poor guy? Access Hollywood. Oh my gosh. Like nobody's been to a Michael Jackson concert, Elvis Presley, John Bon Jovi, and don't see all the lingerie thrown on the stage. That's like a whole different world that these, and they're not billionaires, by the way, that these celebrities live in. And then let's see, Russia. Mueller, they spend almost $30 million, Dean, getting nowhere. Okay, Trump came out of that with unscathed. And then Ukraine. Now we have not one, but 2 impeachments found not guilty. And you'll say, well, they were found not guilty, well, lefties have said, because it was a Republican Senate. And I would counter with, they wouldn't have even been impeached if there wasn't a Democratic Senate. So fast forward a little bit more time. Now this guy has not 1, 2, but 3 unaliving attempts, including the planes malfunction. And I just can't understand why they don't see why he's done city opportunity zones for people. He's actually got not 1, 2, but 3 Nobel Peace nominations. He did prison reform. This guy has not 1 right now, but 2 global conflicts going on. And I paid $2 for a dozen eggs, and I also paid $3.90 for a gallon of gas. So that generally would be through the roof with any other president, because he can call OPEC because they respect him, and he respects them. And I got this basic human fundamental concept that you project strength to avoid conflict, and that's what Trump does. I wouldn't marry the guy, but I gotta say, I mean, I'm hetero. I'm just saying that as basically, he's just cocky billionaire from New York City that's not very affable. But don't look at what he says. Watch what he does. And I land my plane there.
Okay, all right. Well, that was a pretty shitty plane. So first and foremost, I think it's important that you base your. First and foremost, I think that it's important that you base your claims off of fact, and that is very clearly not something that you did within the argument in which you just made. And see, the thing is I'm just going to let the evidence speak for itself. So here is going to be the first article which we look through together. This is from factcheck.org. Now, let's also get this up over on the YouTube stream. So your claim is that he received an award alongside Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali, and this suggested him to have done really good things for the black people in New York City. However, no, that's not true. If we read factcheck.org, what we see is that although he did win an Ellis Award, he did not win this award because of his work within the black community, but rather because of his real estate development in New York
Changing the
at
landscape
the time.
that helped people of color, sir.
Now the issue is, now that we understand that it was because of his real estate development that he made millions from, okay, this isn't going to be something that we could then just turn around and say is something that's deserving of praise because it benefited the black community. Now, the second claim that you made here was that he allowed Nelson Mandela to use his plane. This is PolitiFact. That claim
I
was...
I said he flew Nelson Mandela around. He
Right.
gave it to him at cost.
Right. Now, the place that claim comes from is that Donald Trump made a charitable donation and just simply allowed him to use his plane for free, and he chartered a private jet to get him around.
True.
No, yeah, that's not true at all, because what actually
gave it to
happened,
him
Nelson
at cost.
Mandela paid Trump $130,000 to rent his plane. So why are we trying to praise a businessman for getting
gave it to him at
paid
cost,
to
dude.
conduct business? That's another thing,
cost.
okay? So I don't really think that your argument there is going to mean jack shit. Now, the third thing that you said. Now, the third. I let you speak literally as much as you want.
You're right.
Silence.
I'm gonna mute up.
Thank you. Now, the third thing that you said is that Donald Trump is really beneficial to the black community because of the opportunity zones in which he made. However, no, that's not true at all. Opportunity zones missed the mark on helping the black community because they have inevitably, in practice, just amounted to tax shelters for wealthy investors compared to legitimate aid for low-income residents. So what happens when we've set up opportunity zones, i.e. giving wealthy people a bunch of tax breaks and deductions for investing into these zones, is that they don't make those investments into industry. They don't make those investments into retail. They don't make those investments into businesses that could then build jobs. In fact, we see that close to 99% of that investment just goes into ultra expensive real estate, and which then makes the totality of the place more expensive for everybody, which of course then leads to gentrification and displacement for the low-income residents. Now, I have a pretty good source on this one. If you go on Google, you type in Arnold Ventures Opportunity Zones, a tax break that missed the targets. It'll actually just give you like a whole comprehensive breakdown and study about why opportunity zones ultimately just encourage more disenfranchisement and marginalization of already marginalized low-income individuals. Perfect. So now that we've gone through your first three claims. Yeah, I mean, you just threw like, about a billion points at me. Now you're not even letting me respond to them all.
Okay, go ahead. You're right. Go ahead.
Okay, then you also said, well, we shouldn't make a big deal out of Donald Trump's Access Hollywood tape because listen to Anybody Famous talk when he said he could just grab women by their vaginas without asking first. Well, the thing is we absolutely should make a big deal out of that because that's him admitting that he just will do whatever he wants to women with no consent. And by the way, that's exactly what a court proved, okay? Donald Trump was held civilly liable for raping a woman in 2023, okay? In 2005, he admitted to sexual exploitation, sexual violence by barging into the dressing rooms of women and girls, okay? In the 90s, he was caught on a hot mic hitting on a 10-year-old girl, sexualizing, telling her that he was going to be dating her in 10 years. He said that the best thing that could ever happen to a woman is pregnancy. He was talking about how great Lindsay Lohan's boobs looked when she was 18 and he was like fucking 50. Okay, he's a weirdo, he's a creep, he's a rapist. Okay, he's perpetuated sexual violence. This isn't something that we should just dismiss. I don't think that predators should have power over their prey. I think that sexual violence is beneath the Oval Office, and I don't think that we should put a rapist in the Oval Office to lead the country.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, you either believe in our judicial system or you don't. There is no adjudication that says Donald Trump is a rapist. That's kind of like with O.J. Simpson. I bet you were probably thinking he's guilty. He was found not guilty of unaliving, but guilty of civil liability. So he is not an unaliver. Okay, O.J. Simpson is not an unaliver. This is your opinion. You're entitled to it because we are in America, and you're entitled to that. We can sit here and go into the minutia of why you have that opinion, which I'd rather not do, but he is not above the law and he is also not under it. Do you think it's okay for states and cities to change the laws just to prosecute somebody?
If changing the law means to push back the statute of limitations, then yes, I absolutely do think that's okay. That's not what happened to Trump, but if it did happen to Trump, I wouldn't care. Now, you said that you either trust the justice system or you don't. Do you trust the justice system?
I don't think it's perfect, but if he's not adjudicated of guilt in the court of law, then he is not a rapist.
This is a jury verdict form where all 9 unanimous jurors adjudicated him to be guilty of sexually abusing Miss Carroll. And the reason why it says no to rape is because of their strict and narrow legal definition of the word rape, which was only the forceful penetration of the vagina with a penis. Meanwhile, what they held him civilly liable for was forcefully penetrating her vagina with his fingers. Now, can we agree that under the colloquial usage of the word rape, that the forceful penetration of a woman's vagina with any part of a man's body, especially the fingers, is something that we'd consider to be rape?
You gotta take this. You're taking things way out of context. Okay,
Can you answer my question?
Carroll. People.
Yeah. Can you answer my question, please? Yeah, you're cutting out because you have MAGA Mobile. Can you answer the question that I asked you?
It's basically shown that I'm right. What you've shown is that
I disagree.
They changed the law just to prosecute.
I disagree. Trump. Can you answer my question though?
Yes, they actually defined it differently to later on, now that those same things that he did would be adjudicated as rape.
That wasn't the question that I asked you. The question that I asked you is, can we agree that with the way that we both defined rape, that forcefully penetrating a woman's vagina with a man's fingers unconsensually would be rape?
That is not what happened, though.
Okay,
you do realize
can you just answer my question? Can you just answer my? Why can't you just answer my question?
That is not. She even said she wasn't dragged into the dressing room.
Cool. Now, can you answer my question?
Well, it's the whole basis of your question is.
So you're refusing to answer my question, right?
No, what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're not refusing to answer the question, then answer the question. So once again, the question is: this isn't even about Trump. This isn't even about Carol. This is about humanity in general. Okay, it's a very general question. Can we agree that when a man forcefully penetrates a woman's vagina with his fingers unconsensually, that's rape because it was forceful unconsensual penetration?
Well, that's not what happened because you have
her credibility. I understand I understand that that's not what you think happened. So I'm not asking you if you think that Trump did this to E. Jean Carroll. Because if I was asking you if you think that Trump did this to E. Jean Carroll, then your answer, that's not what happened, would be a valid answer because you'd be saying no. But that's not the question I'm asking you. The question that I'm asking you is, regardless if it's Trump to E. Jean Carroll or anybody else, okay, when a man forcefully penetrates a woman's vagina with his fingers unconsensually, is it something you consider to be rape since it's forceful unconsensual penetration?
Well, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So now we can agree.
Broad brush over Trump.
Now we can agree that the court did find Donald Trump guilty of something that you consider to be rape.
No, Donald Trump found a civil case. You do realize the difference between a civil liability and
he was found guilty
case.
In a civil court. So a civil court found Donald Trump guilty. So just to clarify, is the following sentence accurate or inaccurate? A civil court found Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape.
No.
Okay, what's inaccurate about that specific sentence?
Civilly liable is not. You know, sexual assault is a crime.
Okay, nothing. You're not pointing out the inaccuracy in the sentence. So once again, the sentence is a civil court found Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape. So what part of the sentence? 1 second. What part of the sentence? A civil court found Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape is inaccurate. Now, what you're going to start doing here is you're going to start talking about other things that are included in that sentence. You are not going to tell me what part of the sentence, a civil court found Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape, you are going to deflect and pivot.
No, I'm not. What you're trying to do is call, I'm going to use this analogy because it'll probably sink in. You're trying to call O.J. Simpson an unaliver
pivot number
when he
one.
was found not guilty. When he was found not guilty, but civilly liable.
There's pivot number one.
So he is not an unaliver.
Okay. So deflection / pivot number one. I'm not gonna engage in your deflection because you're not telling me what I said in that sentence. Trump was found guilty by a civil court of law for something you consider to be rape. He's cutting out again. He'll come back. He'll come back, guys. He's just lagging right now. Okay. So second deflection.
Traffic tickets going.
So second deflection. You don't know how to do this thing, okay? You don't know how to debate. It's very embarrassing. I asked you if you think the sentence, a civil court found Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape, is accurate or inaccurate. You said that sentence is inaccurate. Then I asked you to point me to what part of that sentence is inaccurate, and then you deflected to OJ, and then you deflected to the fact that you think you would only believe it was inside of a criminal court. But you're not telling me what part of that sentence was inaccurate.
You're trying to paint a picture in the courtroom that doesn't have that brush.
Okay, so deflection number 3, because you're still not telling me what part of that sentence was inaccurate.
Because number 1, E. Jean Carroll is not number 2.
Okay, you're calling out. So deflection number 4, because you're not telling me what part of the sentence I said was inaccurate.
So, oh my gosh, Dean!
It's come on. I'm sorry. It's just the sentence that I said. Wait. The sentence that I said was a civil court found Donald Trump guilty of something you consider to be rape. You said that sentence is inaccurate. So let's go ahead and break that sentence down to see what parts of it could be inaccurate. You could say the inaccuracy in that sentence is that they didn't find him guilty of something you consider to be rape. You could also say the inaccuracy in that sentence
You know, he was
that wasn't a
found
civil
civilly
court that
liable.
found him guilty of something you found to be rape. And I think those are like the only two possible inaccuracies that could be the case. So which one of those two possible inaccuracies within the sentence do you think is true?
He was found civilly liable, not guilty in a criminal court.
Okay,
There's a
but
difference, Dean.
I didn't say guilty in a criminal court. I said guilty in a civil court.
You said guilty twice.
Yeah, I said guilty in a civil court because that's what liability
was he found
is.
guilty? Was he found guilty of what they describe now as grape?
Yes.
That's what you asked me.
Yeah, and you said that sentence is
He
inaccurate.
was not found guilty. He was found civilly liable, sir.
So liability is guilt. In fact, the two words are synonyms.
No, it's two different things, Dean.
Okay, so to be found guilty
Being
of something
civilly liable
needs to be
that's why I
found
used OJ,
responsible
because
for
so many
something,
people
right?
were screaming. I'm sorry, man.
Can you agree that to be found guilty of something means to be found responsible of something?
No, being found guilty is being found guilty. Being found civilly liable is that there is not really
define
enough
the word
evidence
guilt.
to make you guilty, but they're going to pay all the lawyers anyway. Basically,
Define the word guilt.
it's defined in the courtroom. That's
Okay,
what the judge does.
can you
every
give me
single
the
time when they
definition
give
of
him-
guilt?
No, because they give jury.
Okay, well, see, this is your fucking issue.
This is going to be.
This is your fucking issue.
Can I
You're
finish?
rejecting. No, you can't. You're rejecting the way that I'm using the word guilt. I'm giving you my definition of the word
The
guilt. My
legal
definition
system
is
uses
my
that
definition
way,
of the
not
word
me.
guilt is responsible for doing something. Okay, if I say I'm guilty of eating a whole chocolate cake, all that I'm communicating to you is that I'm responsible for eating a whole chocolate cake. All right. And then you're rejecting that definition. You're saying that the definition of guilt is not being responsible for doing something. So then I'm asking you to give me your definition of guilt, and then you can't do it. So how about
just
we just
did.
replace that word guilt with something else? All right.
Civilly
Is the
liable.
following
That's the legal
sentence
term for it.
inaccurate? Is a following sentence
Civilly
inaccurate?
liable.
A
That's
court,
the right term
a
for it.
court found Donald Trump responsible for doing something you consider to be rape.
No,
What is the
he was
inaccuracy in
not-
that sentence?
he was not adjudicated guilty of grape. He was adjudicated civilly liable. on the-
I didn't use the
One-
word guilt. I didn't use the word guilt in the sentence. The
Hold on
sentence
one
was
second,
a civil court found Donald Trump responsible for doing something you consider to be rape. Nowhere in that sentence did I use the word guilt. And in fact, if you think I was implying the word guilt by saying found responsible, then you actually accept that the definition of the word guilt is once again responsible. So then it was accurate when I said that a civil court found him guilty of something you consider to be rape. So what are we going to do here? Are you going to continue to equivocate
you gonna
between the
let me
word
respond?
responsibility and guilty when it's convenient to you to say what I'm saying is inaccurate? Or are you going to continue to deny that that's the definition of the word guilt in an attempt to basically reject the fact that it is accurate if a court found him guilty of raping a woman? Listen,
No, because
I want you to tell me if the following sentence is
God.
accurate or inaccurate. A court held Donald Trump responsible for doing
Civilly
something
liable
you
is the
consider
word you're
to
looking
be
for.
rape.
Civilly liable is the word you're looking for. Use
That's
the
a
right word.
synonym. A
What you're
court
trying to
finding
do-
wait,
here,
a
Dean,
court
what you're trying to do,
finding
sir,
somebody responsible
what you're trying
can
to
mean a
do
civil court holding
is
somebody
use all
liable.
of the rules
Like
in a
legitimately
criminal court
holding
in a
somebody
civil-
liable for doing something just means finding them financially responsible for doing something. All right? So, like, stop being a disingenuous fuckhead. I know that you're old. I'm not going to respect my elders just because they're my elders. Like, legitimately, I talked to an 18-year-old yesterday that was more mature than you are at 70. It's legit embarrassing. All right? And go ahead and tell me
46,
what part of the
thank you.
following sentence is inaccurate. A court held Donald Trump responsible, okay, for doing something you consider to be rape.
The word responsible is not accurate. He was
Why?
actually found civilly liable in
Define-
a court of law. What
define
you're trying to
liability.
what you're trying to do is paint all of the rules of a criminal courtroom that apply.
Define liable?
And shift them over to the civil courtroom. Do you know one person, Dean?
Don't
can
pivot,
actually
define
be
liable.
Taken into a civil court, and that one person's testimony is going to be enough to railroad somebody.
Dude, define
into jail.
liable.
Civilly liable is when they find that he was civilly liable. You have to.
You can't use the word in the definition.
Well, use the civilly liable word. That's actually was the court.
I'm just asking you to define the word liable.
Well, I'm not Webster's.
Okay. So Webster says that the word liable means legally responsible. Okay, and I asked you if that sentence was inaccurate. A court found Donald Trump responsible for doing something that you said was rape, and you said no, that's not accurate because you said liable. But liable, the definition of the word liable means legally responsible. So I wasn't inaccurate in what I said.
On the day that he was accused of what he was found guilty of,
bro, stop pivoting.
Actually said. He was
on God, this is so annoying.
Not apply to his
this is, dude. This is so annoying. This is so annoying. Do you accept? Do you accept that the definition of the word liable is legally responsible?
Because that wasn't the definition.
Then define it. Then you define the word liable. You define the word liable. No, stop. You defined the word liable, okay? Because I gave you my definition. It was insufficient for you. You rejected it. I gave you Merriam-Webster's definition. It was insufficient for you. You rejected it. So what is your definition of the word liable? You can't just continue to throw these words around, reject the common sense definition of them, reject the colloquial definition of them, reject the legal definition of them, reject the dictionary definition of them, and just say that, oh, everything I'm saying is false because this is not what these words mean. But then when I ask you what these words mean, you won't tell me. It is ridiculous. You, at this point in time, are going to define the word liable.
The definition of Webster, that is what it means. Now,
that's what I said, and you rejected it.
No, because you're using the legally responsible in the arena of a civil courtroom is not the same as the arena of a criminal courtroom. Because legally responsible in a criminal courtroom for the word you're trying to use is something that will carry a much more severe penalty.
The point is you just accepted.
30 years,
listen,
if not longer.
Listen, the point is you just accepted that the definition of the word liable is responsible. Perfect. So is the following sentence accurate or inaccurate? A civil
legally responsible.
A civil court found Donald Trump legally responsible for doing something that you consider to be rape to a woman.
They found him legally responsible in the arena of a civil courtroom.
Is that sentence accurate?
They found him legally responsible in the arena of a civil courtroom. Yes.
Perfect. So why don't you believe the court?
Because it's not a criminal court.
So you don't believe civil courts? Why?
In a criminal court, E. Jean Carroll's credibility would have been. She literally would have been laughed out of the courtroom.
Why?
She and your evidence about Howard Stern is kind of like a comedian.
We're not talking about Howard Stern. We're talking about E. Jean Carroll.
And using that evidence.
We're not talking about Howard Stern. We're talking about E. Jean Carroll.
Howard Stern out of a criminal court, also, sir.
Okay, so why do you think E. Jean Carroll's case would be laughed out of a criminal courtroom?
Because it is girl. They would play the CNN Anderson tape. Would say, well, you walked into the dressing room with him, didn't you? They didn't have the law.
You're cutting out. You have to start from the top.
Actual definition was why did. I mean, there's so many.
Oh my God!
You're experiencing that go into a criminal case that doesn't go into a civil case.
So what is the difference between a civil court and a criminal court?
MAGA Mobile. That was funny.
What's the difference between a civil court and a criminal court?
The difference in the burden of proof thresholds in a civil court.
So what's the burden of proof in a civil court,
and what's the burden of proof in a criminal court? Is it beyond a reasonable person's doubt? In a civil court, it doesn't carry that burden of proof.
So what do you think the reasonable doubt was to the evidence that E. Jean Carroll submitted to the court?
The fact that Donald J. Trump was in an arena of 90% Democrats. It's the same thing that happened with the Salem witches. They found ways to
it'd be reasonable doubt to the evidence she submitted.
Unless you believe they were all actually witches in Salem.
So I'm asking you.
It's the same argument people of
I'm asking you. Hey man. I'm asking you for the I'm asking you for the reasonable doubt to the evidence she submitted, not to the perceived bias of the jurors. So I'll ask again. What is the reasonable doubt to the evidence that E. Jean Carroll submitted to the court?
The evidence that she submitted to the court was that they left out a lot of evidence, by the way.
Can you just tell me what the reasonable doubt is?
Initially denied taking the DNA test, and he went ahead and did with the DNA. Her basic testimony is the only testimony
Can you just
that
tell me what
they
the
had
reasonable
as
doubt
far as
was?
on the scene. So her credibility is zero.
Are you going to tell me what the reasonable doubt was?
I just told you.
No, you didn't.
Her credibility is zero.
Okay,
And they
and
didn't
why do you
have
think her
enough evidence
credibility
to
is
take
zero?
it into a criminal courtroom.
Okay, wait.
I'm
How do you
sorry?
know that they didn't have enough evidence to take it to a criminal court?
I mean, you do realize that women lie before, right?
Okay.
There were some ladies in Miami
because sometimes women
that made
lie,
this up
therefore
just
there
so they
wasn't
could
enough
get
evidence to take it into a criminal
relocation
court.
money.
Hey man, I just want to make sure that your
Say
argument
again?
is. Hey man, I just want to make sure that your argument is that because sometimes women lie, there wasn't enough evidence for it to stand in a criminal court. Is that your position?
That goes to credibility.
Is that your position?
Yeah, her credibility.
Oh,
is
okay,
zero.
perfect. So your position is that because some women lie, there wasn't enough evidence to take it into a criminal court. Has a woman ever taken rape to a criminal court?
Nobody ever said that because.
Hey
someone
man,
lied.
has a
They
woman
didn't-
ever taken rape to a criminal court and won?
Has a woman ever lied?
Can you answer mine?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then your argument doesn't follow. You can't say that because
Yes, it
Eugene
does.
Carroll's a woman and sometimes women lie, that therefore there was not enough evidence for it to go through a criminal court. Because if that was a case, then there would never be enough evidence for any woman to ever take rape to a criminal court and win, because sometimes women lie. But clearly there's many circumstances of women taking rape to a criminal court and winning, even though sometimes women lie. Therefore, your argument doesn't follow. I would argue that there was a cornucopia of evidence to prove that he raped Eugene Carroll. We would first start with the fact that she upheld the same consistent testimony for over 30 years straight. That was corroborated not only by 4 of her friends, but also by medical records from the 90s indicating that she was raped by Donald Trump. She also had a psychotherapist, evaluate her testimony, and once again, repeat the fact that via her body language, her tonality, and the way in which she said things, as well as her emotional response to, reiterating the event, that it indicated that this really happened to her and that she was a victim that was truly experiencing this trauma. We also have the fact that she submitted a dress that she claimed she was raped in by Donald Trump that had his DNA in it to the court. The court proved that it had male DNA in it, and then when that court asked Donald Trump for his DNA to be tested against the DNA in the dress, Donald Trump said, no, I can't do that. Okay, why would an innocent man refuse to submit evidence to the court that would exonerate him? Now, the second category of evidence that we have here would be the very simple fact that Donald Trump's testimony had lies, contradictions, and inconsistencies in them, unlike Eugene Carroll's. The first contradiction in Donald Trump's testimony is the fact that he claimed he never met her. Eugene Carroll responded by submitting a photo of them together to the court. The second inconsistency is that he claimed he never raped her because she wasn't his type. First and foremost, I feel like only a rapist would say I wouldn't rape somebody because they're ugly, not because rape is bad. Right, I want to point that one out. Now, the second point would be that he also lied about her not being his type, because under deposition, he confused a picture of his ex-wife, Marla Maples, to be Eugene Carroll, and we know his ex-wife was his type, so therefore Eugene Carroll is too, if he was able to confuse her for her. All right, perfect. Now, the third category of evidence that we hear is going to be Donald Trump's previous character, character priors would be a better way to phrase that. Not only do we have Donald Trump saying he likes to do to women what this court found him guilty of doing, i.e. the 2005 Access Hollywood tapes, where he said he could just grab women by the vagina without asking them first. The second character prior is that we know that the best predictive measure of the future is going to be the past, and if you've engaged in sexual violence on one account, you're more likely to engage in it again, and Donald Trump has. Okay, we're going to be talking about 2005 when he sat down with Howard Stern on his radio show and admitted to engaging in sexual violence by barging into the dressing rooms of naked beauty pageant contestants, then looking at them while they are naked. And then something else here that I want to add on about that Howard Stern interview is he said that he found it funny and he was boasting about it. So typically, when you find something funny and you boast about it, this isn't something that you're just going to do one time, right? If I boast about, like, for instance, making a really good steak, okay, well then I'm probably going to make that really good steak again because I was really proud of it. I thought other people would really like it, and I personally really enjoyed it. That's why I would boast about it, right? Now, when Donald Trump was boasting about, his first form of sexual violence by barging into the dressing rooms of the beauty pageant contestants, this just indicates to an even higher degree that then he's more likely to engage in sexual violence again. So when we consider all these facts, like the direct evidence submitted by Eugene Carroll, the inconsistencies and lies and contradictions within Donald Trump's testimony, and then the character priors, like Donald Trump saying he likes to do this to women, and Donald Trump admitting to and boasting about other forms of sexual violence that he's engaged in, I find this court case to prove beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that he absolutely did rape Eugene Carroll. And keep in mind, this is all excluding the other evidence, like the fact he's in the Epstein files, had his name illegally redacted over 1 million times. Epstein said he liked young girls just like him, to a private letter to Larry Nazir, another child rapist, days before he died, and the fact that he's a credible accusation from a woman that effectively sued and won millions of dollars in a settlement from Epstein's estate, proving that Epstein trafficked her, who also privately and confidentially told the FBI in 3 different sit-down in-person interviews that Epstein trafficked her to Trump. All right? So in consideration of all of these facts,
Okay, so
we definitely can trust the outcome of that court.
Is it my turn now?
Yes.
I didn't interrupt you at all. All right, so what you're talking about Epstein here is guilty by association. You're going to have to remember that it was Donald Trump's DOJ that arrested Epstein. It was Donald Trump's DOJ charged Epstein, and it was who was the only person on earth to ban Epstein from every Trump property there is, Donald J. Trump.
You don't know that.
Donald J. Trump's DOJ, who's jail, who actually unalived this guy, evidently. So when you're going back to a criminal courtroom, you have prosecution. They bring all of their experts and witnesses. You have the defense. They bring all of their experts and witnesses. And they all testify to the same exact thing. Oftentimes, these scientists and these doctors have completely different opinions about what the exact same thing. Okay? What you're basically doing is in a civil court, one person's testimony can be found civilly liable. Okay, and that's why I use OJ analogy, because maybe that would click into what actually is going on, the difference between a criminal courtroom and a civil. There's civilly liable and then guilty of criminal assault. So when you're talking about a pageant, a man that walks in and says, "Is everything okay?" and they say yes and then leaves is not sexual exploitation, Dean. That's called basically checking, is everything okay? What I define as sexual exploitation is, for instance, somebody in a position of power like Clinton, what he did to Lewinsky, even though that was said to be consensual. So when you're talking about something that is, oftentimes you try to take a rubber band and stretch it around a hippo of the word sexual exploitation. Okay, guys are going to be guys. I guess you've never seen American Pie or Porky's or I did college hazing. I bet you're somewhat of a celebrity. Do you have ladies throw themselves at you when you go out in public? Because celebrities have that happen all the time. Okay, this is something that is not that unusual for the time frame of that particular man. Okay, now he's 80 years old right now. You're having to go back decades. Let's talk about like now. I paid $2 for a dozen eggs. Okay, $3.90 for a gallon of gas. Not with one, but 2 global authorized use of military force going on, because they're technically not wars. Any other POTUS, public servant, millionaire public servant that became millionaires in public service, I'd be paying triple that in gas. And this unaliving that you mentioned earlier in Iran, do you think the Ayatollah was a nice guy? Soleimani was a nice guy? That you forget October 7th? I bet you 2001, if it was September 12th, 2001, we wouldn't be getting this much grief as we get for people in the Middle East. But he got Maduro, he got Soleimani, he got the Ayatollah, and there's the people of Iran are precious. The leadership is tyrannical. The leadership in Venezuela, tyrannical. Soleimani, tyrannical. These people got to go. We can't have October 7th going on. We can't have what they're doing. They're unaliving about 30,000 people just for protesting their government in Iran. That's what triggered it. October 7th was horrible. All Iran has to do is 4 things, Dean. Israel has the right to exist, say it publicly. We will not enrich plutonium into weapons grade. We will have elections and let the people decide. And we will not fund T groups, because that's what they've been doing. And this didn't just start. This has happened forever. If you look back, there's about 100.
You're speaking for over 10 minutes. What are you doing?
Okay, give me 30 more seconds.
Like genuinely, what the fuck are you doing? We were talking about the E. Jean Carroll rape case. You said that there wasn't enough evidence to prove it. I gave you every itemized piece of evidence to prove that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll, and you've spent the last 8 minutes talking about gas in the Middle East and Iran. Like, what are you doing?
Your topic is, how do I still support Trump? I'm telling you, and you mentioned Iran earlier,
So you're just completely moving away from the fact that you called E. Jean Carroll a crazy liar, said there wasn't enough evidence. I gave you all of the evidence, and then you ignored and start talking about Iran?
That was the very first start of my sentence to your counter. You spoke for a long time, then you gave me the floor. What I said about E. Jean Carroll only took about 20 seconds. All of the stuff that I'm talking about now is relevant to now.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we can't do is speak for 10 minutes in a pivot. Because the topic was there enough evidence to justify the claim that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll? I gave you all of the evidence to justify the claim that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll. Then in response, because I wrote it down, you actually didn't respond to E. Jean Carroll at all, outside of saying, quote unquote, one person's testimony can be used to find somebody liable in a civil court. That sentence is the only thing that you said about E. Jean Carroll. You didn't respond to any of the other evidence, like the dress with the DNA. You didn't respond to any of the other evidence, like the medical records from the 90s. You didn't respond to any of the other evidence, like the lies, inconsistencies, and contradictions within Donald Trump's testimony. You didn't respond to any of the other evidence, like the other character priors. All that you said is that you completely grossly misrepresented my argument with all the evidence. You reduced it down to her testimony and her testimony alone, and then you said one person's testimony is all the evidence that needs to find Donald Trump civilly liable, and that's why you don't believe it. And then you spent the other 8 minutes talking about how Clinton is guilty of sexual exploitation, Donald Trump didn't sexually exploit the beauty pageant contestants at Miss Teen USA, how gas is down, eggs are down, war in Iran isn't actually a war. Anybody else, if they were president, gas prices would be 3 times higher. How the Ayatollah was a bad guy, the IRGC is oppressive, and how we need to go into the Middle East. So notice how you didn't respond to all of the other evidence that I gave you.
Yes, I did. What you're trying to... I'll respond again.
Are you going to speak for another 10 minutes?
No, sir. I'll do it in 30 seconds. In a civil court, you cannot be found guilty of sexual assault. You can render an opinion what you think is actually should have happened, but at the time of the court, they did not have the law that they passed in order to charge Trump. Okay, future down the road. So they were adjudicated civilly liable. And by the way, Trump did offer his DNA at the end, and they refused it.
Okay, so to your first point that you can't be found guilty of something in a civil court.
Is that true?
False. So that's absolutely false. So the word guilty just means
that's true.
So I'm going to respond to both of the 2 points that you made. So the first point that you made was that you can't be found guilty of something in a civil court. That's false. Being found guilty of something just means
civilly liable.
You're interrupting me.
There's a difference, Dean. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, there's a difference between civil liability and criminal conviction, but there's guilt in both civil and criminal courts. Because when I say guilt, all that I mean here is found to have been responsible for it, and then liability is a synonym for responsibility, just like guilt. So guilt is a synonym for liability, and liability is a synonym for responsibility. Those 3 words can be used interchangeably.
Word that the legal actual standards meet, that is civilly liable. Like I said,
in being found. Listen, you were interrupting me again. You were interrupting me again. You were interrupting me again. You were like incapable, just like straight up incapable of conversation. Listen, the reason why you don't want to use the word guilty is because you were the one that was morally grandstanding about trusting the system, about trusting our courts. But then all of a sudden, when we have a court that found Donald Trump civilly liable, responsible, or guilty for raping somebody in accordance with your opinion and mine, you just want to dispute it on the basis of semantics. You would rather sit on this live. Shut the fuck up or I'm going to kick you. What are you doing? Like I said, you spoke for 10 minutes. You spoke for 10 minutes. I sat here quietly and patiently. I didn't interrupt you, and I wrote down every single thing that you said. And you're telling me I can't even get 10 seconds? That was the fourth time you interrupted me. You're doing it again. That was the 4th time you interrupted me in less than 30 seconds. In less than 30 seconds, you interrupted me 4 times after I let you speak for as long as you wanted to for 10 minutes and wrote every single thing you said down. So what is it going to be? What is it going to be? Are you going to treat me with the same respect I'm treating you with, even though you're the misogynistic pig claiming that a woman who didn't even just claim a man raped her, but then proved it in court is a crazy liar? Right? Even with that shit, I'm letting you speak, and I'm writing down what you say so I could refute it. And then when you ask me a question, and I don't go, no, I'm not going to answer your question, okay, because I first want you to respond to all the other points that I made. I instead say, okay, here's the answer to your question anyways, because I'm being a nice guy. All right? So be quiet. Now, back to the argument. So once again, guilt is a synonym for responsibility, and synonym is a synonym for liability. Okay? When you're found civilly liable for doing something, you are found guilty. Okay? Right? The same way when you're found criminally, when you're criminally convicted of something, you are found guilty. Now, of course, there is a difference in the guilt, because the first form of guilt that we find in civil courts was proved via a preponderance of evidence. And then the second form of guilt in a criminal court was proved via, the lack of any reasonable doubt to the evidence. So there's a difference in the threshold of guilt, but still yet you find guilt in civil courts and in criminal courts, because the definition of guilt is responsible. Okay? You find people criminally responsible by convicting them, i.e. criminally guilty, and you find people civilly responsible or civilly liable by meeting a threshold of the preponderance of the evidence, i.e. guilty, right? So I'm happy I could describe that concept to you. But see, the thing is you just want to debate semantics. You just want to debate words, because you would rather go in a circle with me about words like guilt, liability, okay, responsibility for like 10 eons compared to actually debating the meat on the bone, which in this circumstance would be what evidence do we have to prove Donald Trump's guilt. And when I went over all of that evidence, I laid it out to you in 3 unique categories. E. Jean Carroll, the evidence she submitted to the courts, Donald Trump, the inconsistencies in his testimony under deposition, and then Trump's character priors, which significantly increase the probability that he would rape a woman, because he's the type of guy that would rape a woman due to the fact that he sexually exploited others. Okay? You completely ignored that because you only want to debate semantics. So what is it going to be? Are you going to respond by continuing to debate semantics? Are you going to respond by finally addressing the actual evidence that he did this? Or are you going to respond by going on another 10-minute rant, not about E. Jean Carroll, not about the civil court case, but rather about the fact that you think that we need to be killing little kids in Iran because the Ayatollah is oppressive? Completely irrelevant to anything in which I said. What is it going to be?
It's your house. You tell me. I'll follow whatever rules you want to go by. Go ahead.
Respond to all the evidence.
Okay, they offered the DNA and they refused it at the end. Is that correct?
So they did not offer the DNA when the discovery period was open. They only offered the DNA after the discovery period is closed. But because of the rules and regulations of courtrooms, unless there's precedent and extraordinarily good reason to reopen discovery after it finishes, they will not do it. In fact, you could read the court documents where the judge says that they are not going to reopen the discovery period for the Trump v. E. Jean Carroll court case because Donald Trump had 2.5 years to submit his DNA during discovery, and he never did. It was only after the discovery period had ended, that he then tried to turn around and offer his DNA to the court.
Did he offer his DNA to the court? If in a criminal court, they would have taken that DNA. In a civil court, prove it.
How do you know that in a criminal court they would have taken his DNA after the discovery period was over?
Because behind every judge, what their big, huge emblem states is the search for truth. So they would have filed a motion, they would have denied it, the judge would have said overruled. They would have took his DNA and searched for the truth.
Well, that's why they have it. That's why they had a 3-year discovery period to search for the truth by allowing the submission of any and all evidence, okay, from the prosecutor or the defendant. And during that 3-year discovery period, not at one point, when requested, nearly every month, did Donald Trump ever submit his DNA to that courtroom. Okay, not to mention that the judge also denied his evidence after the discovery period had ended because the judge denoted the fact that there's not extraordinarily good reason to do so. Because even if he did reopen up discovery, allowed Donald Trump to submit his DNA, and it proved to be the same DNA on E. Jean Carroll's dress, that would just prove that they've met, not that he raped her. Okay, and that's what the judge said in the court documents, which is why he refused to reopen up the discovery period, because in accordance with common procedure of courtrooms, you have to have extraordinarily good evidence, good reason to reopen discovery, and it essentially just has to be like a earth-shaking silver bullet that would completely destroy the case. Okay, that's the type of extraordinarily good evidence that you have to reopen up discovery. And I also think that this was the strategy of Donald Trump and his legal team, that they never submitted the DNA during the discovery period because they knew it would match the DNA on the dress, and that would make Donald Trump look guilty. So then they only tried to submit the DNA to the courtroom after the 3-year discovery period had ended, hinging on the fact that they knew, the judge knew, that there was no extraordinarily good reason to reopen the discovery period, and that judge would be pissed at them because they were asked every month to submit that DNA for 2.5 years, and they refused.
That's like saying, why did it take 3 decades for her to file in the first place? If they're searching for the
Irrelevant.
truth, Dean, they would.
You can't debate. You are just so fucking hard-headed. I don't know. Should I let you finish, or should I be a dick to you like you've been to me? Yeah, go ahead, finish. I'll be the bigger guy. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, they offered the DNA. That's a fact. They said no. They didn't accept the fact. Then you're going to go into credibility. And then
don't pivot away from that. Do you accept my explanation that there was clearly not sufficient? There's no good reason for the judge to reopen the discovery period because he already had 2.5 years, and in order to reopen it, there has to be extraordinarily good reason, and there wasn't.
No, sir. I do not accept not searching for DNA. Not searching for DNA evidence as a reasonable thing, a judge, because he's in New York.
Okay, and what does that change about the procedures of civil and criminal courts? What are we doing?
Oh my gosh, that's like 90% Democrats in New
York.
And
what does that change about the procedures of civil and criminal courts? What are we doing? When I'm telling you the reasons why the judge refused to reopen discovery, this has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with Republicans. This has nothing to do with Democrats. This all has to do with the common and standard procedure of both civil and criminal courts. This has nothing to do with the fact that 90% of people in New York are Democrats. This has nothing to do with the fact that Donald Trump was a Republican. This has all to do with the standard and common procedures of both civil and criminal courts.
Yeah, the procedure in the basic criminal and civil courts is search for truth. That would be like you going to a MAGA jury and expecting something that is going to acquit you. You would be screaming and hollering and say, "This is not going to be fair. I don't want to sit in a courtroom on trial in this."
They have to place boundaries around searching for truth. Okay. The reason why I say that they have to place boundaries around searching
DNA evidence is not something that you shrug off when it's presented to you.
Okay, exactly. It's not. That's why they had 3 years to submit it during the discovery period.
And she had 3 decades to file for this thing and waited.
What do those two things have to do with one another, you idiot? One is about the standard and common procedure of civil and criminal courts, okay, and then the other one is about a woman who, like 66% of other women, either wait 30 years or don't report at all because of rape culture and perpetuators like you that inevitably, once they come out about rape, have their lives ruined, get fired from their jobs, have to relive their traumatic experience, have to re-explain it every single day to their families and friends, have to see it on TV, have to relive it when they're testifying about it in a courtroom, and then have to get demonized and turned into a monolith of the left and then hated on for the entirety of their existence, like you're doing to E. Jean Carroll right now. These two things have nothing to do with one another because in one scenario, okay, it is a legitimate human reaction to negative psychosocial phenomena of men condemning rape victims while uplifting rapists, even when they're found guilty of rape in court. And then the second phenomena of Donald Trump refusing to submit his DNA after claiming he was innocent during a 2.5 year period of discovery, okay, just goes to show that he's probably fucking guilty because he was truly an innocent man. Then he would have submitted his DNA evidence to absolve himself of the crime that he was accused of.
This is the difference between real world practice.
And also, I want to let you know. I want to let you know another reason. I wasn't done. It did seem like I was done, and so I'm not going to get on your case because it did seem like I was done. The second thing I'm going to say here is the second reason why the judge refused to reopen the discovery period is because of the fact that Donald Trump did not submit his DNA after the end of the discovery period. The judge then rejected the dress as a piece of evidence for the trial. Okay, because the judge denoted that because Donald Trump refused to submit his DNA to the courtroom, the only evidence that it was Trump's DNA on the dress was E. Jean Carroll's word of mouth, because Donald Trump was not willing to either prove that it was or prove that it wasn't due to the fact that he was not willing to submit his DNA during the discovery period. So then once the discovery period ended and then the trial proceeded, okay, and then the dress was rejected as a piece of evidence for the reasons that I just gave, there was no reason for Donald Trump to submit his DNA to the courtroom as a piece of evidence because there's nothing to weigh against because the judge had rejected the dress because Donald Trump refused to do so prior to the discovery period ending. right? That's why it lacked good cause. There was no good cause to reopen the discovery period because there's nothing to weigh the DNA against.
What is the bottom line of a judge and a lawyer and all of the people in the courtroom, officers of the court, the search for truth? When the bottom line of this,
but how is his DNA going to help us search for truth if we don't have the dress?
Oh my God, you keep interrupting me.
Well, I mean, sorry, you've just repeated this 5 times. I am going to start interrupting you now because it's the most productive thing to do for this debate, because you just continue to interrupt. Sorry, not interrupt. You just continue to repeat yourself. You've repeated the same line. The bottom line is to search for truth. Okay, well, how would a submission of Donald Trump's DNA to the court after the trial had begun and the dress was not a piece of evidence in that court because it was rejected since Donald Trump wouldn't submit his DNA prior to the discovery period ended, how would that help them in the search for truth? It wouldn't. It wouldn't help them in the search for truth because at that point they had nothing to weigh his DNA against because the dress wasn't a piece of evidence.
Not allowing the dress to be a piece of evidence is something that you would experience in a MAGA court, and you would not find that fair, would you?
The reason why they did not allow the dress as a piece of evidence is because Donald Trump did not submit his DNA to the court.
Would you expect a judge to accept your DNA in a MAGA courtroom or not?
Unironically, in the consideration of the lens of the courts, E. Jean Carroll's dress was hearsay due to the fact that Donald Trump wouldn't submit his DNA. There was no substantial evidence to corroborate the claim that it was his DNA in the dress.
If he submitted his DNA at the end of this before the trial was over, all they had to do was what's called a continuance. They would file a motion. The prosecution would cry about it, but flip the script. If you offered your DNA in a courtroom, that's going to change your life. And they said,
wait,
no.
Why didn't he submit it when the discovery period was open?
Why
didn't he submit the DNA when the discovery period was open? No, I want you to describe this. He had 2.5 years to submit it. It's not irrelevant. Why didn't he?
Do you realize this was called new evidence?
Answer the question. Why did he not submit his DNA to the court in the 2.5 years following E. Jean Carroll's submission of her dress before the discovery period ended?
New evidence enters courts every day.
You're not answering the question. Why did he not submit the DNA for the 2.5 years he had to submit that DNA when the discovery period was open?
That's just as ridiculous as asking why wouldn't she file for 3 decades? It's irrelevant.
Wait. I answered the question. I talked to you about rape culture. I talked to you about the fact that this is going to be a common experience of rape victims because of the social repercussions. I talked to you about how a lot of men will not believe victims, blame them, and then uplift their rapists. I talked to you about the statistic that 66% of women will never report in their lifetimes because of all these facts. So I just answered your quote-unquote identically ridiculous question with a legitimate response. So now I want you to answer my quote-unquote identically ridiculous question with a genuine response. Why did he not submit his DNA to the court during the 2.5 years that he had to prior to the discovery period ending?
Again, that would be something you'd have to go into the mind of Trump to find out, but he did submit the DNA, whether it's in this window or not. We're
doing here.
The DNA, they would have run the test of the DNA, and they would have found out.
You're just being unreasonable. You're being unreasonable. You're saying that that's something that you'd have to go into the mind to figure out. Well, see, the thing is we could do what is called an evaluation of one's mental state from an objectively reasonable position. Okay, in the same way that in accordance. Yes, we can. So in the same way, in accordance with Connor v. Graham and SCOTUS and the 4th and 14th Amendment, when an officer shoots and kills somebody, okay, well, then we have to evaluate what a reasonable officer in that circumstance would do. And if a reasonable officer, in consideration of all facts, would have shot and killed that person because they truly were an imminent threat to their life, okay, well, then we could say that they were justified in shooting and killing that person, okay, by superimposing the notion, well, what would a reasonable person do in their shoes? So now let's do this thing about Trump. Let's A, assume that E. Jean Carroll was a crazy liar, then B, assume that Donald Trump is reasonable. What would a reasonable person do in the scenario where they're being accused of rape in a civil court and the accuser is lying and the accuser claims that she has the dress that she was raped in you by? Keep in mind, you've never met her, and she claims that it has your DNA in it. Then you have 2.5 years to submit your DNA to the courtroom to be tested against the DNA on the dress that you know is not yours since you've never met her. What would a reasonable person do in that scenario? Would they submit their DNA during the 2.5 years during discovery that they had, or would they not submit their DNA during the 2.5 years of discovery that they had? Tell me. If you don't answer this question, by the way, I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to kick you because you are a irrational, petulant child. Okay, so it is either you legitimately answer this question that completely defeats your argument, because in previous times, okay, when I've had good arguments and really good questions for you that just completely debunk your bullshit, you don't address them. You either call them ridiculous, you either pivot to the war in Iran, okay, or you just go on this long 10-minute soliloquy, inevitably never legitimately addressing the question that I'm asking you. So this is your last chance, okay? If you do not legitimately address this question, I am going to kick you. The question is as follows. What would a reasonable man do if they were Donald Trump in this court case and they were innocent? E. Jean Carroll's a liar, never met her. She submitted a dress to the court claiming it had their DNA on it, and then he had 2.5 years to submit his own DNA to prove his innocence. Would a reasonable man in this scenario submit his DNA to the court during discovery when the court had to accept it? Or would a reasonable man in this scenario not submit his DNA to the court during the discovery when he had to accept it? Tell me.
Okay. So a reasonable man in the same situation that Donald J. Trump is, you can't set it apart. You got to keep it where he was. Okay? You're going to have to put yourself in his shoes. What was he thinking could happen with his DNA if he handed it over? He is in an arena that you would be in if you were in a MAGA courtroom. You would be thinking the same exact thing because you seem like a genuinely warm and reasonable person. Donald J. Trump was probably thinking, if I give this to them, they could do anything and everything with my DNA. But the reality is, that's probably what he was thinking.
No, okay? It wasn't, because then why would he try to submit it 2 years later? Couldn't they still do anything and everything with it even after the discovery period had ended? Yeah, they could. So this proves that is not the reason why Donald Trump did not did not submit his DNA.
That is probably why he didn't submit his DNA.
So then why was he willing to submit it later?
He did probably.
So then why was he willing to submit it later? Couldn't they have just taken the DNA then and did the same thing?
When he made the terms where I'm going to submit my DNA this way, they offered it to the court and the court said no. Okay. But
you're not answering my question. If the court could have taken the DNA and like tampered with it during the discovery period, why couldn't the court have taken the DNA and tampered with it when he then later asked the court if he could give them their DNA? Why couldn't they just tamper with it in that second scenario too?
It isn't like they all go sit around in a bar, Dean. They actually have to file motions. They got to prepare motions. They got to say, look, we're not
answering the question.
We're not comfortable submitting our DNA to this court.
So then why were they comfortable 2 years later? Why were they comfortable 2 years later?
Because they worked out the minutia of how to get it done to where
this
Trump
doesn't make any
could
sense.
actually rest easy.
Okay, what was that minutia?
I'm sorry?
What was that minutia? What did that mean?
Oh, gosh, anything from chain of, kind of like they do with ballots. They chain of command signatures. They have things
there's already chain of custody signatures for like typical DNA submissions inside of courtfyreight's. They're airtight. So like in any civil court, okay, if you are requested to submit your DNA to like prove your guilt, okay, then the chain of custody is airtight and there's no holes whatsoever in the process from your submission inside of the courtroom to being tested later in a lab. The reason why is because if there is any holes, if there's any leaks whatsoever that could indicate tampering, okay, well then the defendant's lawyers are going to use that as a reason why the court case should be thrown out. So here's a better question. Can you please describe to me the hole in the chain of custody of Donald Trump's DNA from its submission during the discovery period to it being tested in a lab, okay, during the discovery period? Tell me, what was the hole in the chain of custody?
Your question to me was, why didn't he submit?
Can you tell me what made Donald Trump realistically not rest easy with the notion of a submission of his DNA during discovery? Could you tell me?
He did submit it, and that's when they went
not during discovery, dude. I'm asking you what was the issue with the chain of custody of his DNA during discovery that led to him not feeling comfortable in submitting it? That like a reasonable threat.
What's reasonable is to think that DNA sometimes gets mixed up. You don't realize DNA labs are not perfection.
So what was the issue with the chain of custody with his submission of the DNA during discovery that led to the reasonable to the plausible thought that it would be a bad idea and he wouldn't be able to rest easy?
There has been cases that have been completely thrown out because of DNA mix-up.
Exactly. When there's a DNA mix-up, the case gets fucking thrown out because the defendant's lawyers argue that DNA mix-up. That's why the process is so airtight.
It's not airtight. It still happens.
Then what was the issue? With the submission of his DNA during discovery? Tell me.
the fact they hadn't worked out the minutia of how to get his DNA from him
prove it.
to the lab.
Prove it. I want you to show me that in the court documents. Prove it.
In a safe and
okay,
fair
cool.
and balanced.
Prove it. What is your evidence of this? Wait, what is your evidence? What is your evidence?
You would want a video camera.
Can you give me the evidence? Hey, fool, can you give me the evidence?
Well, you're getting personal insults.
I'll call you a fool as much as I want. Can you give me the evidence?
Yeah, you can. I'm just saying. Okay.
Can you give me the evidence?
The evidence of the fact that DNA gets mixed up is common
knowledge.
No.
The evidence that the process was not airtight because they hadn't worked through the minutia for Donald Trump to submit it during the discovery period. What is the empirical evidence of that claim being true?
The fact that it's 90% Democrats and he didn't trust them in the first place. And
wait. Were they still 90% Democrats 2 years later when they had worked through all the minutia?
Not when you figure out the minutia.
Then the fact that they were 90% Democrats is not evidence that they had not figured out the minutia during the discovery period. So then what's the empirical evidence that they had not figured out the quote-unquote minutia during the discovery period? Tell me.
Because it was just asked for. Do you think this is done fast? This is not something they do at a bar.
This isn't evidence. No, I'm asking you for empirical evidence. I want you to show me. I want you to point. I want you to empirically point me towards the evidence inside of the court documents that when his DNA was requested during the 2.5-year discovery period, that they had not worked through the minutia. Because right now, bro, this is all fanfic. Okay, you're like just dead ass like writing fanfic.
The fact is, they asked them for the DNA.
Okay, I want you to point me to the empirical evidence inside of the court documents to prove that when they had requested his DNA during the discovery period, there was some issue in the process of getting his DNA tested, and which would lead to the reasonable assumption that there could be a mix-up that could result in him being falsely accused, okay, and that being a false match, okay, a false positive. I want you to prove that with empirical evidence, not your words, not with your little fucking fanfic, with legitimate empirical evidence in the court documents.
Sure. The empirical evidence that you're looking for is you got to put yourself in Trump's shoes. You're trying to paint this picture as a normal person.
All right, bro. I'm going to kick you. Have a good one. You just can't give the evidence. So we're going to move on to the next guest. Only up inside of that queue if you happen to be an American adult that supports Donald J. Trump as president. I would really appreciate it if you guys could please follow the rules. What a joke. On Super Chat, thank you for the $20 Starry. I appreciate you so much, Starry. Let's get 200 Starry W's down below. Starry with the $20 says, quote unquote, just trust me, bro. Dude, his whole argument was a trust me, bro. He was embarrassing, man. Thank you for the $20 Starry. I really appreciate you. Welcome in, Dion. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I voted for Donald J. Trump, the president of the year.
Okay, test. Do you have any type of Bluetooth device connected to your phone?
No, not right now. Was my stuff messing up or something? It's not sounding right.
Little bit of an echo. Maybe try to like swipe in and out of the app. Okay, let me test it now. There's still a little bit of an echo. Can you just like turn your phone down a little bit?
Oh yeah, I have my stuff all the way up. That's probably it.
That probably is. Test? Yeah, that's good. I'm going to go and thank a couple people. Then I'll pass you that mic, okay?
I got to look at some stuff.
Static Loop, thank you for the $10. Who says, Dean woke up savage as fuck today and I'm here for it, lol. Well, dude, that last guy was just pissing me off. I was a dick to him, admittedly. I was pretty mean, but I think he deserved it. I appreciate you for the $10 static. On Venmo, Jesse, thank you for the $10. Who says, I was raped at 17 and I'm 57 now. I said to my therapist, so this is my first time telling anybody outside of my friends and family. Jesse, first and foremost, I believe you. I 100% believe you. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. Man, Jesse, you know this. You've been watching my stream since I had 40 viewers and maybe 300 followers. You have been following along for the journey, and you have always been here. You have always been here, Jesse. Just know that I love you. And, you know, me and the rest of the community are absolutely here for you. Please show some love to Jesse in that comment section. Thank you so much, Jesse. As well as... oh, shit, there it goes. Yeah, W's for Jesse, folks. As well as Kelly. Thank you so much for the $15 donation on Venmo. I appreciate you, Kelly. Show some love to Kelly down below in that comment section. Who, with a $15, says it's called judicial efficiency. If courts don't put time caps on when you can submit evidence, then cases would go on for decades and the courts would get nothing done. Exactly. Judicial efficiency. That's a really good phrase. I'll keep that in mind and remember it forever now, Kelly. Thank you so much for the $15. Bethany, thank you for the $20. I appreciate you so much for that love, Bethany. I want to see 200 Bethany W's down below. Thank you so much, Bethany. Same thing to Sasha, who says the rape defending is crazy, but hey man, at least we can land the plane in Iran. Crazy. Thank you for the $10, Sasha. Yeah, that dude was nuts. Abby, thank you for the $15, who says, one could only wonder how many other essay test kits might have popped up with a result that had Donald Trump given DNA for the civil case. Ooh, true. Thank you for the $15, Abby. That's a really good thought. Then Jared, thank you for the $25, who says, if it had been in a criminal court, Trump couldn't refuse to give up his DNA. He'd be rotting in prison. Right. There'd be even more evidence if it was in a criminal court. On God, Jared. Thank you for the $25. I want to see 250 Jared W's down below. Thank you so much for that love, Jared. Show some love to Jared for the $25. Elizabeth, thank you so much for the $15 on Venmo. I really appreciate you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Z, thank you for the 10, who says, I just want to say thank you for standing up against Trump. Well, thank you for the $10, and I hope that you enjoyed today's stream, Z. GG, thank you for the 1. Jared, thank you for the $25, who says, hey, Dean, I was thinking about becoming a MAGA grifter. Is it really as simple as claiming that I love Jesus and hate women and minorities? Easy money, lol, JK. Yeah, I mean, you got to throw something in there about, like, how, like, men are important. Like, you know, it's like you have to say you love Jesus, hate on minorities, hate women, but then simultaneously, like, make men feel self-important. So say that men are superior on top of all that, and then you got it. Then you're a MAGA grifter. Congratulations. Sarah, thank you for the $6 on PayPal. I appreciate you, Sarah. Harold, thank you for the $10, who says, much love to you, Dean. Much love to you as well, Harold. Thank you. Please, thank you so much for the $10. I appreciate you, Harold. Amy and Lee, thank you both for the 5. And then Cheyenne, thank you so much for the $40 donation on PayPal, who drops a little heart emoji. Dude, Cheyenne, it's so good to see you today, and thank you for the $40. That is so fucking kind of you. I want to see 400 Cheyenne W's. Thank you so very much for the love and support. Huge shout out to you. And then Monavon, thank you for the $17, who says, hearing MAGA trying to debate you on the law is pitiful. Yeah, because they can never win. I appreciate you for the $17, Monavon. You are awesome. Thank you. Natalie with the $5, who says, from Virginia, I voted yesterday. Base Natalie. Caitlin, thank you for the $5. And then Jody, thank you for the 1. I think that we have one more on Super Chat. Nope, we don't. We are all caught up. I really appreciate you guys for the love and support. If you're watching and you want to support me, the stream, and what we do here, then you can find my Venmo, PayPal, link tree in the bio on TikTok. Right there, Dean Withers without the E, and then the pin message over on YouTube as well. Okay.
All right.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that a majority of Democrats are against increasing minimum wage?
They're 100% against it. I don't even know why you even...
Increasing minimum wage.
They're 100% against it. And I can tell you why. Because they lobby with groups like... Hold on. They lobby with groups like the AFL. Let me search up another group that they lobby with. Oh, I wish I had this with other ones. Hold on. Hold on.
Wait, would you be willing to bet me $1,000 over the claim, and I quote, a majority of Democrats are for increasing the minimum wage?
Okay, I want to add on top of that.
No, wait. Why would you have to add anything? Why would you have to add anything?
Because that's like a straightforward answer.
Wait, but on that bet right there, would you win or would you lose? If we did bet,
because that right there.
Oh, okay. So you owe Parker $1,000 because that's exactly what you bet with Parker.
You already got it.
So you sent him $1,000
to his Venmo thing.
Wait, you sent Parker a band?
Yeah, you got to his Venmo.
Parker,
you got $80.
I know that you're watching, Parker. Oh, Parker just sent me a text saying that you didn't.
I sent 80.
I don't.
80. That is good enough.
So you still have some. So you still have some debt to pay.
That ain't no debt. You ain't getting no ban for that. That ain't no real.
So you
should have. If it was on my terms with my actual, if I would have actually made the prompt that we was gonna be debating on, then yeah. But I didn't. That wasn't on my terms.
Listen, just tell us. All right, let's stick to the question. Why do you support Trump as president?
Well, because he was getting the immigrants out, and I'm with the labor union. The labor union, we want our federal minimum wage to go up to $25 an hour, and the DNC don't want to do it, and the RNC don't want to do it, mainly because immigrants are here in our country, and they're willing to work for lower wages. Well, they're not really willing to work. Companies exploit them.
Okay.
Companies that are lobbied by, the liberals and the DNC. So,
perfect. So your claim is you want to deport all the undocumented immigrants because you think if we do that, then we'll see like higher real median wages, right?
Yeah, and we'll stop seeing people be exploited for their labor. But that's not the full
So you just want to
claim.
stop the exploitation
The
of
full
labor.
claim-
Perfect. Well, then you should endorse mass amnesty, which would be giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to residency or citizenship. The reason why I'd say that is pretty simple and very clear. Because the reason why undocumented immigrants are more likely to accept lower wages than residents or citizens is because they have less bargaining power in the workplace. Okay? Because if undocumented immigrants don't have a job in 40 of our 50 states, they can't get any federal or state assistance, meaning that if they don't have food because they can't pay for it, they'll die. If they don't have housing because they can't apply for Section 8, they'll die. If they don't have health care because they can't apply for Medicaid and they get a chronic illness, they'll die. If, like the thing is because of the lack of social safety nets, they just have significantly less bargaining power because at least when a citizen is unemployed, they could apply for unemployment, they could get food stamps, they could get Section 8, they could get Medicaid, they could get all these things that would prevent their death even if they'd live in like a very bad environment, okay? Now, the second thing that I'll add on top of that is the second reason why undocumented immigrants have less bargaining power is because they don't have long-term survivability in the market. They could be deported tomorrow. So in other words, if we accounted for these issues by offering undocumented immigrants a pathway to residency or citizenship, giving them access to long-term survivability in the market and limited social safety nets that are also available to other residents and citizens, okay, well then they'd have more bargaining power, so then they'd get higher wages. So in fact, amnesty is the very best way to ensure that we don't have millions of immigrants whose labor is being exploited because they have less bargaining power.
So you're talking about giving them workers permits.
I'm talking about giving them residency or citizenship.
So just let anybody come across the border and give them complete residency and citizenship as long as they were looking for jobs. That's
Well, it's not
basically
just
what you
anybody.
want.
I think that people with, like bad crimes on the records, gang, or like heinous affiliations, they shouldn't be able to come in. But everybody else who's already
about
here as an
mental
undocumented
disorders?
immigrant should be offered a pathway to residency or citizenship.
So how we're going to protect them people from being exploited by these corporations? That's not protecting this bill. This do not protect them from exploitation.
They'd be just as much protected as any other resident or citizen like you or I. And then
They
at that
won't
point,
bargain.
then
That's
at
not
that then at that point, the exploitation just becomes downstream of like trickle down economics, capitalism without adequate safeguards, and it's not going to be an issue that's exclusive to immigrants.
Yeah, but the corporation CEOs and the managers can still, they still can threaten the workers with calling ICE or getting them deported. They still can threaten them. So why would they bargain?
They can't, because if they're a resident or a citizen, they're here legally, which is exactly why I endorse amnesty.
Well, they won't. They don't give them full. They won't give them full citizenship.
Well, I'm actually saying that we should consider it, but even if it's not full citizenship, but rather like maybe like a 3-year period where it's residency before they get full citizenship, they still can't have ICE called on them or be deported because
and they
they're
still
legal residents.
can be exploited. That's still giving them a window to be exploited.
Do you think that legal residents are paid lower wages than full-blown citizens?
Wait, can you repeat that? Repeat that.
Do you think that legal residents today are paid lower wages than full-blown citizens?
No, they're getting paid way less, and that's the problem.
Okay. So you think that we should like stop doing legal residency as well?
Yes. As of right now,
wow. So we should
deport
undocumented immigrants, and we should stop legal residency. Okay. So then let's just give undocumented immigrants full-blown citizenship.
You talk too fast.
Like legal residency. Well, then we shouldn't offer them legal residency. We should just offer them citizenship.
We shouldn't offer them citizenship because we can allow terrorists in. What about that? That's not protecting the border.
Well, how about we like have a vetting process where if we do identify an undocumented immigrant as a terrorist, we deport them instead of giving them amnesty.
How do we identify undocumented immigrant as a terrorist without
Tina, thank you so much for the leopard. I appreciate you so much for the love, Tina.
Without racially profiling them. We can't do that. We can't do that without racially profiling them.
What?
So you can't.
You think the only way to identify terrorists is to wait.
Okay, so
you're saying the only way to identify terrorists is to see if they're brown?
No, I'm saying that is what they're going to do. That is what they do already. That is their tactics already. What do they do? Who do they majority watch every single day? Who communities?
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of racial profiling within that process. Right? But what I'm saying is like what I'm saying is like the vetting process for amnesty.
So what are you talking about?
Okay, would like
trying
include
to pivot away from what you were talking about? I said
I'm not pivoting away from what I talked about.
Because you're saying that I am. Okay, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
So I said amnesty good. You said no, amnesty bad because they could be terrorists. And then I said, well, we should have a vetting process for that.
Amnesty not good because it does not protect them. It still gives corporations leverage to say that they can deport them at any time, which will make the workers fearful for bargaining.
You can't deport citizens. I don't think that you're like tracking.
They're not getting full citizenship with amnesty.
I'm saying that they should, right? This is like the alternative to mass deportation.
But that's not what they're doing, though.
Yeah, because instead we're doing a mass deportation where we're just kicking all of them out of the country.
Oh my God.
Like, can you agree that like amnesty for full citizenship is better than mass deportation?
That's just choosing an ultimatum. They're just choosing exploitation over.
Can you just answer the question?
Country. That's all you're saying.
Can you just answer the question?
Ultimatum. You're making me choose an ultimatum.
Yes,
exploitation over kicking people out the country.
Wait,
I'm not doing
wait, how is amnesty to give people full citizenship exploitive?
I want our workers in the United States to get rights.
Can you answer the question?
Federal minimum wage up to $25 an hour for all.
Stop grandstanding and just answer the question. Why is it exploitive to give undocumented immigrants a pathway to full citizenship?
Because it's still exploiting them. That gives them a window. It don't give them a 3-year window before they can get full citizenship.
It wouldn't exploit them any more than it'd exploit you or me, right?
They can say, because mind you, these immigrants do not know a lot. So these corporations can say, we can still deport them, which they do.
This dude.
What is you talking about? These are articles you can look up. You can look this stuff up, and this is stuff that happens still to this day in the United States.
Okay,
that's basically modern day slavery.
So what's preferable? So what's preferable? A system of amnesty to give undocumented immigrants full citizenship, and inside of that system of amnesty, we'll also ensure that we tell them that once they're citizens, they can't be deported, or mass deportation.
Amnesty
because you told me that you ultimately can't pick one of the two options because you think that the amnesty for citizenship is exploitive. Then I asked you why it's exploitive, and then you said, well, because they're stupid and dumb and they don't know that they can't be deported.
That's not what I said.
All right, and I disagree with that. All right, whatever. But, what if we account for that form of exploitation by just ensuring that in this process of amnesty for citizenship, we tell them that they can't be deported once they're citizens? Okay, well, now all of a sudden companies can exploit them by threatening deportation because they know that they can't be deported. Boom. Is that system exploitive?
Yes, this still leaves a 3-year window. It still leaves a window. They can lie. Corporations lie. They do this stuff. I think the best way to do it is if we gonna do that, you might as well just give them
what 3-year window are you talking about?
They cross. No, if we do that, we might as well just give
what 3-year window are you talking about?
Undeniable and citizenship once they cross the border. Bro, the second they cross the border,
what 3-year window?
That's what we should do.
What 3-year window are you talking about?
This doesn't give them full citizenship.
The form of amnesty that I'm proposing does. I'm asking you.
That's not the form of amnesty that's going to get pushed.
My question.
Your
listen,
opinion
dude,
does not matter.
You're legit. You're legit not tracking. I'm gonna kick you if you continue down this path.
Your opinion does not matter.
Because you're just as insufferable as the last guess. So we're talking ideologically here. Idealistically, sorry. Would you prefer amnesty for... Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just going to kick you. Last opportunity. Sorry. I'm sorry that like my temper's a little bit shorter with you than it is with most guests, but rolling off of the back of the last debate that I had, I have no time for petulant bullshit from man babies like you and the last person I talked to. Maybe if you came into my life before the last guy, I would be a little bit kinder to you. I'd be a little bit more patient with you. And I wouldn't be as like hard and cutthroat with you, telling you that you're a petulant man-child because you've interrupted me a couple times and you've refused to answer my question a couple times. Like on a good day when somebody interrupts me a couple times and refuses to answer my question a couple times, I'm a little bit more patient and I work with him. Not today, buddy. Sorry, not going to do it. Not after that last guess. All right? Cry and all you fucking want. Okay? But unless you answer the question right now, I'm going to kick you. Here's the question. What would you prefer? A form of amnesty for undocumented immigrants that gives them full citizenship so they cannot be exploited any more than any other citizen, or Donald Trump's mass deportation?
If the amnesty gives them full, undeniable citizenship, yes, I would support amnesty. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So who's closer, ideologically speaking, to amnesty, the left or the right?
Neither, because they're not going to push it. Neither one of them are pushing it.
What?
They both are pushing exploitation.
There was an amnesty bill proposed to Congress under Biden by the left that failed. Dude, the people that endorse
it did not
the people wait. So you think that like the progressive left, okay, is equally far away from endorsing amnesty for full citizenship as the MAGA right is?
Well, in that way, the way you framed it, no.
Okay, so are you on the progressive left? Since you align closer with the ideological goals of the progressive left compared to the MAGA right?
I stand with the labor union of the United States and whatever benefits the labor union.
Okay, well then you
raising the
should
minimum.
support Trump because his economic policy is drastic for the labor union and the average American. Like for example, last year because of his policy, we had the worst jobs report on recorded history since 2003, accounting for recessions. We also had the most manufacturing bankruptcies since 2010, the worst investment into manufacturing in years after a boom under Biden. Okay, and we had the most layoffs and highest level of unemployment since the pandemic. And we continue to get terrible jobs reports. In February, we lost 92,000 jobs alone. Investment continues to go down. Unemployment continues to rise. Meanwhile, now prices are also continuing to rise, with prices for manufacturers going up by 3.4% in the month of March alone. On top of that fact, Donald Trump's big beautiful bill directly reduced the purchasing power of the working class. Okay, according to the CBPP, the average American making at or under $51,000 per year is damaged a lot by the big beautiful bill. Their purchasing power is going down. Then you have other actions like him taking health care away from 10 million low-income Americans when we already have 51,000 that die every single year via lack of access to health care. And example, then I'll let you respond to it all. Like, take, for example, Donald Trump's first year of illegal tariffs. Okay? So the verdict is in. His tariffs raised $166 billion. They were paid for by American manufacturers when they imported goods into this country. But then the American manufacturers, according to Goldman Sachs, passed 55% of the $166 billion collected off to the consumers, i.e. the average American, for a total of $91.3 billion. And now after those tariffs were ruled as illegal, Trump then has started to issue refunds, not to the average American for the $91 billion that they paid, but rather all to these big companies, including the $91 billion that the average American paid. So on top of all the other facts and statistics I've given you about the big beautiful bill, about Medicaid, about Medicare, okay, about the terrible jobs reports, rising costs, inflation, and decreasing investment into manufacturers on top of bankruptcies and layoffs, Donald Trump is also directly taking $91 billion away from that working class that you claim to stand for just to put it back in the pockets of the rich ruling elite. And this is a man that you support? How?
I said I support labor rights and raising the federal minimum wage. You started talking about everything that was bad about Trump. I don't know why you did that. You trying to paint me as a bad person so everybody else think that I'm wrong. That's not gonna work.
No, I didn't
Now,
just name off random things that were bad. I know, I'm interrupting you. I apologize.
You just said just let me talk when I pointed it out. Now you mad.
I know. I admit that I'm interrupting you and doing a bad thing. I take accountability. But just the one correction that I wanted to issue here is I didn't just start naming off a bunch of random bad things that Donald Trump did. It was specifically all the bad things that he's done that has hurt the working class. Okay? That has hurt the people in the labor unions. That has hurt the workers. That has hurt the average American. Those weren't just random bad things. Those were specific bad things designed to target, to describe to you why you are wrong in claiming that the Trump administration is good for unions, that the Trump administration is good for the average American, and that the Trump administration is good for low and middle income Americans.
Okay, well, I simply said federal minimum wage. Federal minimum wage in the United States repeatedly every single time. In 2009 was the last time they raised the federal minimum wage. Our immigrants was not coming across the border. It was coming. Let me slow down. Immigrants was coming across the border at an all-time low in 2009. Now we fast forward to 2015 when they tried to pass another bill for immigrants' rights. Well, the Republicans shot it down, but still, Democrats already knew they were not going to get that bill passed because Obama was in office and the Republicans weren't voting for nothing Obama wanted to do. Okay, then they did another bill in 2025. There was also an influx of immigrants. They tried to raise the minimum wage again. I don't think that bill got passed. I think that was another Democratic bill, which they knew again was not going to get passed. I think that was 2021, but they was trying to get passed again. They already knew it wasn't going to get passed because Trump was in office and all that stuff. They already knew it. So, I mean, the Republicans had the majority in the House, so they already knew it wasn't going to get passed. That's another showcase that only time the Democrats ever try to push a bill to raise the federal minimum wage is when the Republicans is in office or have the majority, just to try to make them look like that they're not for the labor union. That's the only time they ever push for raising the federal minimum wage. That's the only reason I stand for that. And if our corporations can pay people less money, they're going to continue to do that. And even if we do this amnesty bill, they're going to find another way. We need to find a way that's better to protect all people Not only people from the United States, but the people who come into our country. Not just giving them citizenship off the bat. They need to work for their citizenship. There are people out here who have literally fought to get their citizenship year after year. And like, I don't see how we just gonna just let people come in off of nothing. Like,
okay, so the first thing is, you didn't respond to a single point that I made. You are no better than the last guest. I make really good points to dispute your view. You ignore every single one of them. I just
named 3 times the Democratic Party has pushed for for the federal minimum wage to raise.
This guy doesn't listen. The reason why
I said 3 times.
The reason why the federal minimum wage hasn't been risen is because of Republicans. Okay, now let me finish my point. So the first point that I'm making here is that I made a bunch of great points for how harmful and detrimental. Can you stop? Like, bro, what the fuck is your issue?
Continue.
Thank you. What are we doing? Embarrassing.
Proceed.
So the first point that I'll make here is that you didn't respond to a single point that I made about how detrimental. Should I kick you? Should I?
Sure.
Like, should I? Like, come on. The last 2 hours of my life has been constituted of children not letting me speak and ignoring my points. Today has been hell for me. All right? Like, this is so annoying. Just stop, bro. Just I know you're capable. Just stop. I didn't interrupt you.
You can go now, bro.
So first point I'll make here is you didn't respond to a single point that I made insofar as why the Trump administration is detrimental to the working class, the average American, okay, and unionized workers. You didn't respond to a single one. You didn't touch on the bad jobs report. You didn't touch on the big beautiful bill. You didn't touch on the deduction of purchasing power. You didn't touch on the layoffs. You didn't touch on any of those facts. You just ignored every single one. Okay, and then he went on a longer rant saying that, well, the Democrats are to blame for not increasing the federal minimum wage. How many states since 2014 have increased their state level minimum wage? Do you know?
That's not helping the federal minimum wage.
Can you just answer the question?
Yeah, but what about the country? What about the states that's not raising their federal minimum wage? What about the cities and towns that's not raising their federal?
The reason why my question is relevant is because it indicates not only where the desire of the party's constituents lie. Okay, we already went over how a vast majority of all Democratic constituents support raising the federal minimum wage, but where the actions of the policymakers that lead that party lie when they can invoke change on the state level because their party controls the state, compared to their party not possessing enough control at the federal level to get shit done. So answer the question, okay? Since 2014, do you know how many states have increased their state minimum wage?
I do not know off the top of my head, no.
Okay, I do. All right?
Okay.
There's been 28. There's been 28 states that have changed their minimum wage since January of 2014. Okay? These states include Nevada, Michigan, Arizona, Washington, D.C., not a state, Washington, Virginia, Vermont, Rhode Island, Oregon, New York, New Mexico, New Jersey, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Maryland, Maine, Illinois, Hawaii, Delaware, Connecticut, Colorado, California, West Virginia, South Dakota, Nebraska, Missouri, Florida, Arkansas, and Alaska. Now let's go through those states' political affiliation. Nevada swings to the left. Michigan swings to the left. Arizona swings a little bit to the left. Washington, D.C., overwhelmingly Democratic. Washington, Democrat. Virginia, Democrat. Vermont, Democrat. Rhode Island, Democrat. Oregon, Democrat. New York, Democrat. New Mexico, Democrat. New Jersey, Democrat. Minnesota, Democrat. Massachusetts, Democrat. Maryland, Democrat. Maine, Democrat. Illinois, Democrat. Hawaii, Democrat. Delaware, Democrat. Connecticut, Democrat. Colorado, Democrat. California, Democrat. Should I continue?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Because I got a question at the end, though.
West Virginia, South Dakota, Nebraska, Missouri, Florida, Arkansas, and Alaska, Republican. Okay? There's been over 21 states. Out of the 28 states that have increased their federal minimum wage, state level minimum wage, since 2014, 23 of the 28 states are Democratic. So how the fuck are you going to sit here and tell me that the Democrat Party does not support increasing the federal minimum wage when a vast majority of Democratic voters support increasing the federal minimum wage, and a vast majority of the states that have increased their state level minimum wage since 2014 have been Democratic? The issue that is an impediment upon changing the minimum wage on the federal level is the Republican Party. Either they prevent us from increasing the federal minimum wage by via the Democrats not possessing a supermajority in the Senate, so then the Republicans can block the bill with a filibuster, i.e. you have to have 60 Democrats, or they prevented an increase in the federal minimum wage by possessing a majority in either of the two chambers or both chambers in Congress / possessing the White House. Okay? But when we account for not having a Democratic supermajority in Congress, or not having a Democratic president, and when we look at more localized governments that do have a Democratic supermajority that can actually get shit done in accordance with the Democratic agenda, we see that they pass laws to increase the minimum wage like 4 times, okay, as frequently as Democrat states. Sorry, it's Republican states. Do you get the point?
100% get your point. But do you know how much they increased the federal minimum wage, though? I mean, their minimum wage from the federal minimum wage? Only $1. Well, no. It's $2.
No.
They only increased it by $2. Yes.
No. Right now, the federal minimum right now the federal minimum wage is $7.25. In California, it's $17. In Arizona, it's $15. In Nebraska, it's $15. In Colorado, it's $15. In New Mexico, it's $12. In DC, it's $18. In Connecticut, it's $17. In Rhode Island, it's $16. In New York, it's $16. In New Jersey, it's $16. So you just tried to tell me, okay, that all of these Democratic states that have increased their minimum wage, okay, only increased it by $1 compared, okay, to the federal minimum wage. No, that's not true. That is a significant raise. In many of these states, their state level minimum wage, because of Democratic leadership, is over twice as high as the federal minimum wage. Oh, but then when we look at the minimum wage in super red states like Texas, $7, Oklahoma, $7, Kansas, $7. When we look in North Carolina, $7. When we look in Georgia, holy shit, $5 in Georgia. Okay, $5 in Georgia. That was the most recent initiative of them from 2001. Okay, but of course they still follow under federal minimum wage law. So do you see my point here?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
They increased the federal minimum wage by $2, $3.
So do you see my point here? How, like the Democratic Party is better for increasing the minimum wage compared to the Republican Party?
Yeah, based off of these facts that you just stated, that would say that. But also, if you look, they only increased it by $2.
So I changed your mind?
They only increased it by $2 and $3. That's not enough for people to survive. People have been asking for them to raise it to $25 an hour. Why haven't they did what the people who voted for them asked for?
So first and foremost, okay, these are not increases of $2. Do you know how to do simple math?
Okay, I'm saying from Illinois. So Illinois went from $12 an hour to $15 an hour. That was a $3 increase.
Okay, $15 an hour. Oh, perfect. Do you know how to do math? What is 15 minus 7?
15 minus 7. I ain't off my top of my head. I got ADHD. You can't ask me that.
You're good.
I got ADHD. You can't ask me. You can't do that.
It's good.
Because you know what you just tried to do.
You're good, bro. It's $8. So is $8 equivalent to $2?
No.
Okay, so you were wrong when you said that these Democratic states have just increased the minimum wage by $1 or $2, including the state that you live in, which has increased it by $8, which, by the way, is more than the current federal minimum wage.
They didn't increase it in one bill. Illinois did not increase their minimum wage in one bill.
But the point still stands is that Democratic leadership right now is realistically the only party that's actually increasing minimum wage. Okay, right? Disproportionately, the Democrats are the ones who are fighting for higher minimum wages, not the Republicans. Okay, because if the Republicans were the one fighting for higher minimum wages, then there would be more than just 5 out of the 28 states that have increased their minimum wage since 2014 that were Republican. Then why are only 5 out of the 28 states that have increased their minimum wage since 2014 been Republican?
Okay, I said you made me choose an ultimatum between two things. You told me choose the bill that you said. The bill that you said, amnesty, is exploiting people.
Okay, now he's back to amnesty? So wait, now we're just ignoring wages?
You're basically talking about making people slaves.
Bro, this guy's lost. This guy's lost. Dude, guys, his whole point was about minimum wage. Okay?
Yes.
So then I gave him like about a billion reasons outside of minimum wage why the Republican Party is really bad for the working class. He ignored every single one of them and then repeated the point about minimum wage and how the Democrats don't want to increase it. So then I finally caved and I debunked his ass, pointed out how a vast majority of Democrats support raising the federal minimum wage. And when we look at isolated Democratic leadership on the state level that has the supermajority required to increase the minimum wage, unlike the Democrats at multiple points, okay, since 2007 haven't had that same supermajority, okay, what happened in these states? Well, we see that there's been 28 states that have increased their minimum wage since 2014. 3/4 of them are Democratic. And then the one time that the Democrats had a supermajority under Obama, okay, sure, they didn't pass an increase in the minimum wage. They passed the Affordable Care Act. You know what I mean?
What about Montana,
so it's like, please, can you concede that while although no one party is perfect, because it's not like in every democratically run state the minimum wage is a livable wage necessarily, the left is significantly closer, both ideologically and materially, of achieving that goal of livable wages for their constituents compared to the right. Can you directly respond to that? Can we agree that the left is significantly closer, both ideologically and materially, to achieving the goal of a livable wage for every single one of their constituents than the right?
You're saying it like it's a goalpost or something. They literally can just do it. They had the majority when Biden was in office and when Obama was in office. You're saying it like they're doing a goalpost or something. Like they're trying to hit a goalpost. That's not.
No, I know. I'm saying that we both agree that a livable wage for everybody is a goal. You're not answering my question.
You're jumping.
You're not answering my question.
I'm
saying that both you and me agree that the livable wage, okay, is the goal that we want. Both you and me agree that neither of the two parties, Democrats or Republicans, are perfect. Okay? I'm just simply asking you, okay, is the Democrat Party significantly closer ideologically and materially to achieving our goal of a livable wage for all of their constituents than the Republicans? Yes or no?
And the way you framing it, you reframed it, yes.
Okay, so then you redact your support from Trump.
You keep saying, but they're still not doing it with $25 an hour.
But they're closer to that than the Republicans. So you're not a Trump supporter, right?
Simply,
But in consideration of the fact that the left is closer, you're not a Trump supporter, right?
Can I say it? Can I say it real quick?
I just want to know because we agree that the left is closer to what we want than the right, that we're not on the right. Okay? Can we agree?
No, that's not what it means.
Okay, so then here's a follow-up question. Tell me why, even though the left is significantly closer to what we want than the right, you're on the right.
Because they're pushing for immigrants to stay here and be exploited. I said when I first came here, my position
So it has nothing to do with the minimum wage argument?
That's everything to do with the minimum wage argument. You can't ask for minimum wage. Okay, never mind. It's cool. You can't ask for minimum wage. Undocumented immigrants that are in a very democratic place, like DC, for instance. Okay, they have to get paid at minimum $18 an hour. African American,
but the undocumented immigrants that are in very red states, okay, like Texas, they have to get paid at minimum $7.25. Okay, right? So can we agree that undocumented immigrants who are in red states are significantly more exploited than undocumented immigrants who are in blue states, even if undocumented immigrants in all states, regardless if they're red or blue, experience some level of exploitation? Yes? Okay, so then why do you side with the...
You can't say that. You basically is trying to say somebody is worse or worser. Who is worse or worser?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Yes. Yes, so that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Why the Republicans is worser?
Wait, so you don't think that an undocumented immigrant getting paid $18 an hour compared to $7 an hour is better for that undocumented immigrant?
Okay.
Would the material conditions of an undocumented immigrant be better if they're getting paid $18 an hour or $7 an hour?
It would be better if we actually help their country instead of going
you're dodging.
Instead of us going over
you're legit dodging. You're legit dodging. You're legit dodging. Answer the question. You're legit dodging. Answer the question. Would an undocumented immigrant be better off if they're getting paid $18 an hour or $7 an hour?
I think it would be better off if we help their country.
You're dodging! Either answer the question or get kicked, buddy. Last opportunity. And dude, by the way, legitimately, this is your last opportunity. I'm gonna kick you if you don't answer because this is unfucking real. Would the material conditions of an undocumented immigrant be better if they're getting paid $18 an hour or $7 an hour?
It would be way better if they got paid $18 an hour.
Thank you. So we could agree that the material conditions of undocumented immigrants are better in Democratic states than Republican states. So why are you a fucking
They're
Republican?
being forced labored. Because they're being forced labored. I don't want to see no people being forced labored because they're
Forced
in my
labored?
community and I see this stuff happen.
Wait.
Unlike
Forced
you, they
labor?
don't live in your gated
Wait.
community. Sorry, but I see this stuff happen on a day-to-day basis. Immigrants are being exploited. They're being exploited by these corporations, and you don't see this because you never had a job. You probably haven't had a job in a long time, so you don't get to talk to people like that. But I can tell you this: immigrants, corporations like Amazon, corporations like.
But wait. Do you agree that the right also exploits undocumented immigrants just more?
No, they both do the same thing.
Wait, so you think that the right is just equally?
How is that possible?
Well, so now you've yielded a contradiction
They're
because
being
you did
lobbied
it
by the same corporations.
You've yielded a contradiction. The contradiction is as follows: you're simultaneously affirming that the left treats undocumented immigrants better than the right, while also simultaneously affirming that the left does not treat undocumented immigrants better than the right because they're treated equally by both parties. Now, you affirmed that the left treats undocumented immigrants better than the right, when you said that undocumented immigrants in blue states get paid more than undocumented immigrants in red states.
But they
and
still
then
get
you
treated
affirmed
less.
that the left does not, treat undocumented immigrants better than the right, when you then went on to argue that they get paid, that they're exploited just as much by both parties. That's an explicit contradiction.
How is that a contradiction if I can't agree that they're both parties is doing the same exact things? If
Because
they're
you affirm that they're not doing the exact same thing. You
both-
affirm that the
if
material
corporations
conditions
is donating to the
you
Democratic
affirmed.
Party.
Listen, you affirmed
How?
that they're not doing the same
How?
thing. When you said that you agree that the material conditions of immigrants in blue states are better than immigrants in red states, that means that the two parties are not doing the same thing, and that the left comparatively
about
to the right
Minnesota?
treats them better.
What about in Minnesota?
We're talking about holistically with a comparative average. Comparatively, across the country, on average, undocumented immigrants get paid significantly more in blue states than red states. So because of that, it is true that in comparison to the right, the left treats undocumented immigrants better.
Okay, then let's not go off the state federal minimum wage because some states towns don't even follow their federal minimum wage. So what about that?
Okay, then prosecute them. The fuck?
Well, Illinois don't do that. And JB Pritzker know that happens. So what?
Okay,
Them
so
is
you're
Democratic states that allow
saying,
that
Dean,
stuff to
let's
happen.
pivot. You're saying, Dean,
Where's my
let's
money,
pivot.
buddy?
Oh my God.
Hey, buddy, where's my money? Where's my
So you got
grand?
your
Where's my
$80.
grand
That's
right
all you
now?
getting.
Venmo, PayPal.
That's all
Where's
you
my
getting.
grand?
And you did not win that argument. You said
You didn't send me anything. Where's my grand?
because you didn't win the debate.
I
You
did.
still
You
ain't proved.
conceded
You
on the
still ain't
live.
proved how the immigrants don't affect the federal minimum wage not being raised. I proved to you in
Wait, that's not what
2009.
the bet
I
was
proved to you.
about.
Wait.
The
I
bet
proved to
was
you in
specifically- hold up.
2009 that the immigration rate
Hold up.
was lower and they raised the
Hold
federal
up.
minimum.
Hold up. The bet was specifically
Okay.
you saying that a majority of Democrats did not support federal minimum wage increase, and I was telling you a majority of
Yeah.
Democrats do support that, and you disputed that, and then I proved you wrong. All right, I gotta get
No, you
going.
did
Now.
not.
I just came up there to troll you. Like, dude, you owe me $1,000. Send it Venmo, PayPal.
Take care,
Hey
Parker.
Dean, I want you to pull up the article he told me to read.
Listen,
Please
Santana.
pull it up.
One
Please
moment.
pull this up and read the
Santana,
first page.
if you want to quickly have a moment to say something to him, feel free. I'm done with this guy. He's
Yeah,
very
I
bad
know.
faith, and
I've
he's
been
very bad
listening.
faith. He's very disingenuous, right? Like I gave him my points about why the right is so bad for the working class. He then pivoted away from those points that I gave to wages. I then gave him the points about why the Democratic Party is
He
better
wants
for
Hispanic
wages than the
teachers to be
right,
exploited
and then he
by the
pivoted
white
away
man.
from
That's
that
what he
point
wants.
to
He wants the
undocumented
Hispanics
immigrants
to-
being exploited, and then I
They're trying
described to him how comparatively the left exploits undocumented immigrants to a lower level than the right. So then why are you on the right? And now he's trying to pivot away from that
They
point by
both-
pointing out that some cities, don't abide
They
by the
both
minimum
exploit.
wage. But then if I were to respond to the point that some cities don't abide by minimum wage, then we go on to say, well, this doesn't just impact undocumented immigrants. This impacts everybody, regardless of their immigration status. And this doesn't just take place in blue states. It takes place in red states, predominantly like Georgia, where people working at universities are legit getting paid $5.10 an hour, even though the state minimum wage is $7. Even though the federal minimum wage is $7.25. And as soon as I tell that to him, he's going to pivot and run away from that too. So he's pivoted and ran away from every single point that I made on the live the whole time he's been on the live. So I'm going to kick him. But Santana, you said that you did want to say something, so feel free.
Yeah, just really quick. I've been listening to him run. Hey, Dion, when was the last time that the federal minimum wage outpaced the cost of living?
In 1980, it was when Reagan was in office. He messed it up.
Right. And so Reagan is the one that perpetuated the myth of trickle-down economics, which there's been comprehensive studies showing that trickle-down economics does not work, but it's something that Republicans continue to perpetuate. So when you talk about even having the ability to raise the federal minimum wage, the roadblocker is that Ronald Reagan, someone who most Republicans deem to be the greatest Republican president of all time, has put this in place and has continued to keep the federal minimum wage lower while the actual corporate tax rates have gotten more cuts due to Republican presidents. Everything that you're saying as far as being able to increase the federal minimum wage or improve workers' rights have been stymied by the Republican Party. Or even you can talk about the fact that Donald Trump specifically is a union buster, right? Let's not forget that he and Elon Musk laughed about that on Twitter Spaces prior to the election of how they enjoy busting up unions. So even if you say that you're someone that actually cares about improving the standards for workers and federal minimum wage, nothing about your support says that.
Did you hear what I said in my argument, though? I was saying that.
I'm sorry. I just want to let. I'm not going to let this go on for a long time. I'm done with this fool.
No,
but Dion, if you want to respond to him, feel free.
I just want to ask him.
No. Don't ask him anything. Respond to the points that he made. Go ahead.
All right, but Will, you're right. Reagan did destroy the economy, and the Democrats have been trying to raise the federal minimum wage. But what I was trying to get my point across as was they had the option when they raised the federal minimum wage in 2009, when they tried to raise the federal minimum wage in 2015, they had the option to raise it to $25 an hour that we asked for. But they chose what? $15 an hour. They knew that wasn't a livable wage. They knew by 2020 we weren't going to be able to. That wasn't going to be a livable wage. I think
the issue that you keep parroting is, even though, like, I will grant you that, but the issue is that when you look at the two sides as far as who's done anything and who's fought against everything, you're aligning yourself with the party who's fought against everything. So even if that wasn't good enough, then you should side with the Democrats and force them to do more. You should be pushing the Democrats because they've shown that they're willing to do something versus the Republicans who are showing that they're unwilling to do anything. That doesn't make sense to side yourself with someone who goes against it versus someone who just didn't do enough.
Yeah, like you are co-signing yourself to the party that has never wanted an increase in the federal minimum wage since the $7.25 was introduced. Okay, you're spending your time shitting on the Democrats, which I in one sense appreciate, because we need to make the Democratic Party better. We need more sensible, more reasonable, more progressive voices to take over. That starts with genuine good faith critique. Okay, but my issue with you is that you're a hypocrite, because you're not in good faith critiquing the DNC while aligning yourself with progressive politics and rejecting people worse than the DNC like Trump. You are critiquing the DNC while then aligning yourself with something worse than the DNC like Trump. It is so hypocritical.
That's just counterproductive. At this point, it just sounds like you're complaining about it. Anyway, yeah. Dean, I appreciate you having me. I've been listening this entire time. It's you've had a day.
Dude, I appreciate you for coming up, Santana. You have a good one, okay?
Yeah, I'll see you. Yep.
You take care. Yeah, man. I mean, it's just like one of those days where everybody we talk to is just impossible, guys. We're going to move on to the next guest right now, only up inside of that queue. Like, I really do hate days like this. It's because, like, people don't come up here for, like, genuine, like, conversation. They just come up here with their preconceived biases and notions in which they find to be the case, in which they're unwilling to change, regardless of the critique, to demonstrate that it's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like every couple days we run into some shit like this. At least 2 or 3 times a week. This is how the stream goes, and I unfortunately expect the stream to continue on like this. It's just ridiculous, man. It's just like, dude, you're human, be a human, okay? Be susceptible to being proven wrong, okay? And just recognizing that your view is incorrect. And they don't have the ability to do that. It's ridiculous. Joe, welcome in. Do you support Trump?
Yeah.
How old are you?
36.
All right, Joe, I'm going to go to take a minute and thank a couple people, then I'll pass the mic to you. Thomas, thank you so much for the $50 over on YouTube Super Chat. I appreciate you so much for that love, Thomas. Holy fuck. Thank you so much, man. That is a lot of money, and I'm so very grateful for you. Let's go ahead and see 500 W's for Thomas down below in that chat. Like I said, man, thank you so very, very much for the love and support. You are awesome. 500 W's for Thomas. As well as CT Hull, thank you for the $10 as well. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, CT Hull. On PayPal, T, thank you for the $5. Then Riley, that is Reilly. Thank you for the $30 donation. Who says, Dina, I'm on the right, but I hate Trump and don't like where the Republican Party is heading. I know that you don't like most Republican values, but what do you think those like me can do to get the Republican Party and politics in general to be more civil and respectful? Yeah, definitely by just rejecting people like Trump and like low-key hopping over to the left. I think that might be your only option at this point, Riley. The reason why I say that is because with champions like Trump, I don't think that the Republican Party is going to get healed overnight. And I think the only way that the Republican Party could heal is if they just lose all of their electoral support. Okay? Right, that's like the only way at this point. Okay, like we found ourselves in a conundrum where the disrespectful, violent have taken over the GOP, and the only way that the GOP could ever come back is if they lose all of their support, then recognize that they have to completely change their model from the ground up. But I really appreciate you for the love, Riley. Show some love to Riley down below in that chat. Then Marina, thank you for the $7. Who says, I've been watching every day for 2 months. Holy hell, Marina. That is awesome. Thank you for the support. Sienna, that is Senna. Thank you for the $15. Thank you so much for the love, Sienna. I'm going to go to keep that message to myself because it is a little bit shocking, but just know that I'm really sorry that happened to you. And thank you for the $15. Then same thing to Cheyenne. Thank you for the $20 donation on PayPal. Cheyenne did not attach a message to the love. Just send it right on through. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. You are very, very kind. Please show some love to all of the donors down below in the chat. I'm so very grateful for you guys, and thank you so much for the continued love and support. We have a couple people to thank here over on Venmo real quick. Amanda, thank you for the $10. Who says, this whole quote, we are using the immigrants false flag BS excuse is so old. They don't give a crap about that. I know for a fact immigrants work in construction, make good money, mostly because Americans don't really want to work or the lack of skills. Well, thank you for the $10, Amanda. Ashton with the $10 as well. He says, when you got annoyed at being constantly spoken over and interrupted, I couldn't relate more. I teach high school, and this is my life on a daily basis. Thank you for what you do. Yeah, you know, unironically, I think like the closest experience to what I go through every day talking to these people would be like a high school or middle school teacher like in class. You know what I mean? Like, dude, because they act like kids. Thank you for the $10, Ashton. Summer, thank you for the $5. Then Sarah, thank you for the $20. Who says, my 18-year-old just voted yes on VA's redistricting amendment. So proud. That is awesome. I really hope that it passes. Thank you for the $20, Sarah. And then Jared, thank you for the $25. Who says, I love it when your guests say that you speak too fast. On VODs, I play back at 1.5 speed and can comprehend everything just fine. I mean, to be fair, I do at some point speak pretty fast, but, you know, is what it is. Thank you for the $25, Jared. And then Kathleen, thank you for the $5. One more for now on Venmo. This just came in 18 seconds ago from Joseph. Thank you for the $25. Who says, again, for putting up with idiots, I love your command of logic. Well, thank you, Joseph. I hope that you're having a phenomenal day today. I know that you're always in here hanging out with us, and I'm so very grateful for you. Show some love to Joseph and all of the other supporters. Thank you guys so very much. Now, Joe, go ahead and take it away. Tell us why you support the deranged lunatic who's claimed to be God, threatened genocide, attacked the Pope, praised Allah on Easter, and passed some of the worst policy we've seen in modern American history. Tell us.
I waited over 70 guests to tell you, fuck you, and Charlie Kirk's a better debater.
Yeah, but you didn't come up here to debate me because you're scared? I know it. It's fine.
No, you had a Discord about Charlie Kirk's death where you celebrated it. And then you tried to publicly put out a video to cover your ass, like people cared about your viewpoint on it, when the whole time you preyed upon that day to come. Yeah. Because you lost a debate. You're a child, man. You cannot lose a debate and lose it formally. And you sit here and you
I expect that he's going to leave after this, by the way. You expect him to leave. Run away. He's going to run away.
No, I'm not going to leave. No, I'm not going to leave unless you kick me. I'm good to stay. I have nothing but time to talk to you about this. I've been wanting to talk to you about this respectfully. Well, disrespectfully. Respectfully, of course.
Then go ahead.
No, that's I'm good right there. I'll land right there, and you could respond to any point you'd like. But at one point in time, you have to address the fact. I'd like you to address the Discord.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it just never happened. So that was a lie that older millennials spread by just saying it. There's no evidence.
Screenshots and all.
Yeah, no screenshots of it.
Oh, the viral ones that I saw were like, oh wow, and this guy was crying.
You're just straight up lying.
Okay, why did you go to crying?
Wait, can you show me? Wait. No, we're going to stick on the Discord topic. Don't pivot. Show me the screenshots.
Okay, cool. No, I don't have those screenshots.
Because they don't exist.
Well, when I was on social media, I was seeing it. I was like, did this guy really create a Discord to like prey on the downfall like that?
Bro, trust me. I was like even staying up to date with like the commotion on social media about that Discord. And no one ever produced any screenshots anywhere on the internet.
Bro,
You're just telling a lie.
Produce a video like where you're like artificially tearing is like
yeah.
crazy.
You want to move on. You want to move on to that, but you won't talk about the Discord anymore, right? Because you know that it's a lie.
No, like if there's no Discord, fine, I'll concede.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the concession.
I would hope you'd have the balls to admit to something like that. Had it been real.
So now that you've conceded about the misinformation that you spoke about the Discord, what's the next question you have me? For me?
Hey, listen. Like I said, civilly we can discuss this disrespectfully and respectfully. Okay, we can exchange pleasantries. However, like I said, if there's no Discord, cool. I'll concede to that.
Yeah, thank you for conceding. What's the next question?
If that is the truth, I just don't know if you don't have the balls on this camera, or if there's I don't understand.
Yeah, because you believe in things without evidence. That's what you do. You don't have any evidence of that. You just heard it from OM. He's a chronic liar. By the way, honestly, OM's TikToks. Oh, by the way, OM's TikToks. I just want to point this out, everybody. OM's TikToks are actually a great source for fact checking what's true. Because if you listen to the older millennial, just know that the opposite of whatever he says is the truth. Great fact checker. Okay, we love.
Okay,
Joe.
so
He's
how did your stance go from anti-Charlie Kirk to pro-Charlie Kirk once he passed?
My stance has always been
the smirk is great. The response,
including when he passed. But listen, let me clarify this. My stance has always been anti-Charlie Kirk, including when he died. Okay, when he died. Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish speaking? Can you let me finish speaking, Joe? Is that possible?
Oh, you're irritated that this is when.
No, I'm just asking you to let me finish my sentence. That's all.
This is when Dean drops me. Expect him to do that, guy.
I'm just asking you to let me finish, man. That's all I'm requesting. Is that fair? I think it's fair.
I just don't think it's fair that you posted an artificial tear video for a guy that you're anti-post-mortem.
I was just about to explain that, but you won't let me.
Go for it.
Thank you. So your first allegation was that I went from being anti-Charlie Kirk to being pro-Charlie Kirk. No, I've always been consistently anti-Charlie Kirk, okay? Now, what you're claiming to be me representing pro-Charlie Kirk values would be the fact that when he got killed, I cried. Okay, but I didn't cry because I liked who Charlie Kirk was as a person. I didn't cry because I had a revelation that he was right all along. And I didn't cry because I'm a performative grifter that's secretly MAGA. All right? Like, some people at the internet have said. I cried because I saw a video of a man who, regardless of the fact I didn't like him, I knew personally getting his jugular split open in front of a crowd of 500 students that also contained my best friend who is less than 20 feet away, who then called me the moment it happened with a FaceTime where he was running away and screaming, thinking that it was a mass shooting event. All right? And honestly, the more time that goes on, I truly believe the only people that don't get it are either rage baiting or like children. A lot of children don't get it, or really dumb.
What do you mean?
But I feel like, one moment, I'm almost done. I feel like if you're not rage baiting, if you're not under the age of 18, and you're not incredibly unintelligent, you have personally met people in your life that you really don't like at all. Yet, if you saw a video of their jugular getting blown open while your best friend witnessed from 20 feet away thinking they would be next, you would show some emotion. All right? And I understand the disconnect from me and a lot of the internet, because a lot of the internet never met Charlie Kirk in person. A lot of the internet didn't humanize Charlie Kirk, which, by the way, is fine. You don't need to humanize fascist freaks, okay? But I didn't have an option. I didn't opt into humanizing him. What humanized him for me is the fact that I met him in person, okay? That's not something I can do to change. That's not something I will ever be able to do to change. And seeing a video of somebody I unwillingly humanized because I met them in person, getting their jugular split open in front of my friend, clearly, at the time I was also 20, invoked an incredibly strong emotional reaction. But in summary, that did not make me Charlie Kirk. That just made me human.
Yeah, I'm not buying that, bro. I hear that for your followers, but between mano and mano, I'm not buying it. If you're anti, be linear, bro. Like, if I don't like you, I'm not going to wait till you're postmortem and make a video like I like you or I care that you're gone. Or I'm going to say it. I humanized you in that democratic bullshit. I'm not doing it. I'm not buying that. I'm saying that's for your followers, and that's not how you really feel. And I'm telling you that man to man. And
I lost followers over this.
Dean,
you're coming from the perspective of somebody on the right.
Dean,
you understand
Dean.
this did not land well with the left. This
No,
isn't
wait a minute,
something.
Dean.
This
Wait a
isn't
minute, Dean.
something that
There's
I got
15,000
brownie
people
points
here.
from. One second. This is not something that I got brownie points from people on the left. This is not something that my fan base applauded me for. This is something that a minority of my fan base completely left me for. This is something that people still flame me all over the internet for until today. And this is something that a majority of my fanboys just kind of ignored and moved on with because they understand how, like, yeah, that wasn't representing any positive like reflections of my thoughts on Charlie Kirk. That was just a moment of expression from Dean that shouldn't have been on the internet. It, like, frankly, right?
Because that video goes against
I don't
everything that you
understand,
assume.
and I don't understand the argument that you're making. Okay, because you're not one of the people on the far left or on the left at all that is like, oh, Dean, you're secretly a Republican grifter because you secretly love Charlie Kirk, and I know that because you cried for him. Okay, you're on the right, and you're saying that I performatively cried for Charlie Kirk, even though I hated him and would never cry for him on my own, to like resonate better with the internet. Bro, it was by far my largest public controversy of my career, and it will likely be my largest public controversy of my career for the future too. Okay, I will
Because it
likely
was so
never
false and
receive
everyone could tell
more,
it was so
I will
clear that-
likely never receive more backlash than I did on the day Charlie Kirk died. I will never receive that much backlash
Because your
again.
video was so fake and so obvious. But I will say this.
That's not even what the backlash was from.
No, wait a minute.
The backlash wasn't. No, let me clarify. I need to clarify. Okay, I'm going to clarify on this, and then I'm going to let you speak. The backlash that I received wasn't because people thought that I was fake crying. The backlash that I received was not from people on the right. It was from people on the left who acknowledged that I was really crying, but just misinterpreted the reason why to mean that I liked Charlie Kirk, compared to me just having an uncontrollable and unexplainable human reaction to watching somebody I met in person.
Because it polarizes the problem with the Democratic Party. Because it shines light on the Democratic Party. You say that you're so humanitarian, and then you say, "Well, I humanized him, so I cried. It brought up strong emotion. I was only 20." Okay, cool. But then every emotion that you excrete on your stream, you go against when you make a video that says, "Well, he's human, so I cried." It's like, bro, I'm not picking on you for crying. Cool. What I'm picking on you for is that you make a video that's like so, oh, Charlie Kirk, and then you try to like dumb it down for your followers and saying, well, guys, just trust me, it was only because he's human. He got his jugular split. It's just like, it just seems really artificial. That's all, bro. But at least, Dean, I will give you this. In front of a lot of people, you stood here and you said, and you stood to your ground.
What would my motivations be for fake crime?
I just don't like how you're.
Why would I performatively
First of all,
cry?
your following would be your motivation because your following.
But that hurt my following.
And it's going to always hurt your following because.
So why would I choose to do something that I know would hurt me?
Because that's how internet you're stuck on, bro. Like you live here, like you live
right.
here. Like
okay, but I would only choose to hopefully do things that would like help me, right? Like, if I was this performative grifter, don't one second, don't performative like fake people like only choose to do things in which would help them? Why would a performative fake grifter like choose to do something that would hurt them?
Bro, it sheds
the question. You can't answer.
Light on your entire conflicted party. You guys are.
That's the question. You can't answer.
You are literally.
You have no way to answer that question.
Dean,
so then you're like, "Oh, Dean, I don't know why you performatively choose to do something that would hurt you. You're just weird."
You don't even know why you did what you did was a foul, bro. And I'm telling you, you had left foot in and right foot out, bro. You're crying over him being a human, but you go against everything that human stood for. You did not know him other than meeting him. You said, and you didn't like him then, and you didn't like him post-mortem. So like you're standing on that, but then you had the other foot saying, well, he was human and it was just terrible. I had so much emotion. I was 20. Bro, when I was 20, I seen 4 bags. It's not that big of a deal. And just because it's Charlie Kirk, it's not that bigger of it any more great. It's not, you shouldn't make it that
okay.
You shouldn't make it that.
So if you didn't think that it was that big of a deal when you watched people that you knew, regardless if you liked them or not, die in a public scene with 500 people screaming around thinking that it was a public shooting, including your best friend, that's fine. I just had a different reaction than you.
Bro, I don't mind your reaction.
There's no problem with that. Let me clarify that. There's no problem, okay? If you personally know somebody, if you watch them get shot in the neck experienced a bloody fast death regardless if you hated them, and they had 500 people around them, including your best friend, that thought they were next, and you cry, there's no problem with that. Zero. Absolutely no problem at all.
I don't have
and
a
you're
problem.
accusing me of having 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Because, like, while I cried and acknowledged the reasons why I'm crying, which is what I just described, I simultaneously continue to shit on Charlie Kirk as a person. Okay, well, that's because death doesn't glorify a bad person. Okay, you don't go from being a terrible person that endorses child torture like Charlie Kirk did, arguing that if his 9-year-old daughter was raped and impregnated, he'd force her to deal with that bodily mutilation because he thinks that abortion is always wrong, even in those circumstances. Okay, you don't go from being evil to being good when you die. All right, like what does dying change about what he stood for when he lived?
Do you think
dying doesn't change anything about what you stood for where you live? Also, tyranny in the chat, you are legit a bot. There's unironically somebody in the chat saying on the left, oh, you cried for him even though he was a terrible person. Tyranny, you have a low IQ. You are stupid. Okay, I did not cry for him because of anything that I stood for. Oh my God, I just described this. I feel like I've been going crazy for the last year straight. You're legit a bot, Tyranny. I cried once again, as I just described 4 fucking times, okay, because I saw somebody I knew, regardless of the fact that they're bad, die from getting their jugular blown open, while my best friend was on FaceTime with me screaming, saying he just watched Charlie Kirk's jugular getting blown open, running away because he thought he was going to get shot in the back of the head next. Okay, so Tyranny in the chat, you're a fucking idiot. And Joel in the live, you're a fucking idiot too. What's the response?
Fuck you, Dean.
Yeah, you could say fuck you, Dean. You can't say I'm wrong.
But at least
no one can say I'm wrong.
You stood on your business, and at least you had a conversation with me, so I'll give you that.
Explain to me why I'm wrong. Explain to me why I'm wrong. Something nobody could do on the subject.
Because you can't. No, I told you, and you refused to acknowledge it because you can't, because the subject matter was too harsh, bro. It would take your following away. You're doing this for gifts, bro. You're grifting, bro. Like, you don't feel this way because if that logic, by your logic, also, I've seen your streams. You don't believe that bad people should deserve good. You don't believe they deserve good outcome. I know where you stand. So if you felt that way,
you just got a restriction. Listen, buddy, you just repeated this. So I had to kick you because of your restriction. Oh, listen, buddy, you just repeated the same point that you made earlier. Your argument was, okay, that Dean, like, this is the perspective from the right, that Dean was a performative grifter and he cried to, like, get more accolades and attention from the internet to, like, get, like, resolve from his fan base. But, buddy, that's just not what happened, okay? Right? That's the reason why, like, that argument from the right that, like, Dean performatively cried for Kirk fails, okay? Because if I was doing a performance, then I wouldn't have cried because that would have resolved better with my audience. Like, I'm just gonna be honest, it would have. Okay, right? You can't argue that I'm simultaneously a grifting performer and argue that I'm doing things that would be bad for the fan base. Okay. Somebody else in the comment section just said, "Would you cry for Trump?" No, I've never met the fucking guy. Plus, he's like terrible. Like, hell no. No, I've never met Trump. No, hell no. That's crazy. No. Plus now I'm like really desensitized from what happened to Kirk. I'm so fucking desensitized from what happened to Kirk. Like, unfortunately, I'm now going to live like the rest of my life being really desensitized to watching people, even people I knew, okay, get their necks blown open. That's just how it is now. That's how it is now for me in my life. Somebody else said, but Kirk's terrible. Yeah, he was a fucking asshole. He was so terrible. Not a single tear was shed because a terrible man died. Okay. The tears in which were shed came from the fact that I watched a terrible man die, and I'm not desensitized to gore, and I knew that terrible man personally, regardless of the fact that he was a terrible man, and my best friend was 20 feet away thinking he was next. Ugh. How are y'all not getting this? I'm going to deal with this for the rest of my life because of 3 buckets of people. Rage baiters, children, i.e. minors under the age of 18, that don't have their brains cognitively developed to the extent of being able to rationalize the world around them, okay, because this topic is nuanced, and then idiots. I will live the rest of my life seeing this in comment sections on like 10 Dean hate videos a day, hearing this from guests and seeing it from commenters. Because of those three categories of people. And clearly, as you guys can see, it gets to me. Because it's like losing my cool there. We're going to move on to the next guest. Only up inside of that queue if you happen to be an American adult that supports Donald J. Trump as president. All right. Yeah. If you guys could tell, it has really started to get to me. After seeing it for a year. It has really, really started to get to me. It's never going to go away either. And honestly, I think I just have to live with that. Maybe that is just a part of what it means to be an influential creator with a large platform. You know? I think that's just a part of it. I think a part of being an influential creator with a pretty large platform is forever seeing misinformation onset by idiocracy, rage baits, and kids because their brains aren't developed enough to understand nuance. And that's just going to exist on the internet forever. It's never going to go away. And that's unfortunate. But let's go and hop back into the debates about Trump. Only up inside of that queue of your MAGA. Here we go. Dude. You know what? Kirk won the debate, folks. All right? I was on his ass too. He was scared of me. No, he won because he said, fuck you, Dean. I'm going to ensure that you live the rest of your life. In perpetual rage bait. He took the final W. Hey, welcome in, D-Sport Trump.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Dean. I hope you're having fantastic days. Yes, I do support the Republican Party.
Okay, yeah, but do you support Trump?
I will say yes, but not
Okay.
completely. I have
All
some
right.
disagreements.
Okay, so if the election was held tomorrow between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who do you vote for?
Trump.
Okay, why?
Yeah, I think he has a better plan for the country than Kamala.
Okay, so Kamala Harris's plan was what? Tax cuts for 120 million working Americans, ensuring that you could only pay like $2,000 a year out-of-pocket costs for private pharmaceuticals, ensuring that women and girls could access health care. Donald Trump's plan is what? Oh, take people's health care away, take people's food stamps away, take their purchasing power away, break the Constitution, break the law, and then start a needless war in the Middle East that's resulted in the material loss of life, war crimes through the destruction of civilian infrastructure, threats of genocide, and then the highest gas prices has increased in a month since the Vietnam War. Okay, how is his plan better?
Okay, you said like 100 different things. It will be impossible for me to address anyone. I can address anyone that what you think you want to talk, or I can tell you what is important to me.
No, I'm just asking you why you think his plan is better.
I like the immigration.
Immigration policy. Yeah, what is one quantifiable material outcome of Donald Trump's mass deportation been?
I don't understand what you're trying to get from the question. What would be a good answer for you?
When you say that you don't understand the question, are you saying like you don't understand the way in which I'm framing it? Is that what
Yes.
you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just asking you to name like one positive way Trump's mass deportation has helped this country.
Let me tell you my issue.
What can you
So-
answer my question? What's one positive way it's helped the country?
I think it will allow fairness within small businesses.
Can you please repeat that? My apologies.
It will allow better fairness about costs within the small business sector.
Okay. So better fairness for small businesses. What do you mean by that?
Let me give you an example. My wife used to run a cleaning service, and we were doing great in an area. We were getting customers. It was fantastic. Then Biden came into power, and borders got open. And what happened was, well, some dudes show up with different companies with 7 ladies who clearly were from Mexico with 50% of the cost. And the problem was that I needed to pay several different insurance that for me was impossible to compete. So we
Okay.
have no option to close the business.
So the first thing I'll say here is it seems like on the larger scale, this is just an issue with capitalism, like low key. This is an issue with the dictation of the free market. Because in the free market, okay, firms compete with one another and firms try to undercut one another. Now, we should attempt to prevent firms from unfairly undercutting one another within the free market by regulating the free market. And those regulations would look like standards for minimum wage, legal obligations for possession of insurance, so on and so forth. So if you're telling me that you were undercut by another company, well, how exactly did they undercut you? Let's evaluate the way in which they undercut you to see if it has anything to do with immigration, or if it's more so just a natural dictation of a free market under capitalism, and therefore you're critiquing capitalism, not immigration.
As I said, I already answered that piece.
Can you? I think you did. I wasn't tracking.
Let me address your question. You asking, you think you blame the capitalism here. Let me address that one.
Can you just tell me how this other firm was undercutting you? You said you already answered it. I wasn't tracking. Can you answer it again?
They didn't pay the insurance that was required.
Oh, well, then they broke the law. So the issue is with illegally breaking the law to not get insurance, not immigration. Mm-hmm. And the remedy to that issue isn't to deport a bunch of immigrants to send them to be tortured and seek out unconstitutionally, but rather just for like more enforcement on businesses illegally breaking the law, not abiding by set forth regulatory requirements such as the possession of insurance. So, and when you see a company, okay, that's breaking regulatory requirements, like for instance, not possessing insurance, you have two options, and let me tell you what they are. The first option, when you're being cut by a firm doing illegal things, is to do those illegal things too. The second option, when you're being undercut by a firm that's doing illegal things, is to call the proper authorities and tell them that this firm is doing illegal things, so then they get shut down. There's no magical solution of a third option that, if we just deport all of the black and brown people, there'll be no more firms doing illegal things. What are we doing? That's not a magical third option, because guess what? We get rid of all the brown people like Trump wants to, all right? Well, then all of a sudden, you still have firms that are just not run by the brown people that are still going to do those illegal things by not abiding by the regulatory requirement of insurance. So it seems like your only option here isn't to support deportation, okay? Isn't to engage in the illegal things yourself, because then you're putting your own ass on the line, but rather to call the relevant authorities and report the fact that they're breaking the law. Boom.
Let me address those 2 points for a second. The first one, as you said, if
I just don't know if you were listening to me, because you were trying to overspeak me the whole time. But if you were, take it away.
I was trying to answer, but look, if you want to speak at the end, no issue. Thank you for allowing me to speak. The first one is, you said something about if they do something illegal, I should do something legal. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's correct.
Bro, I didn't say you should. I said that's the first option.
Said. So I in my case, I prefer the law. Yes, I understand your point. So that one. Now, reporting, yes, it was an option, but the reality is this: what you have is companies. What you have is companies that, I come in, let me just put some numbers up, and of course they're fake. Oh, I could charge $1,000 for cleaning you, and the other comes $800. I'm getting fired. I find out about the company. At that point, I already broke up. My company's dead. So to do something is not important. To me, it's not really capitalism the problem. To me, the problem is that we have people that they're not documented. They cannot have the protections that citizens or other people with documents have, who can demand the salary that they deserve. So I rather.
But this wasn't about salary. This was about insurance.
As I said, if they're protected, they can say the law demands that you, employer, get me the workers' comp.
Oh, because, okay. So they actually have identical labor protections to citizens. Fun fact, and that's because of the third. It's because of the third clause of the 14th Amendment. The third clause of the 14th Amendment is the Equal Protections Clause. Okay, the third clause of the 14th Amendment ensures that all workers in this country, regardless of their citizens, residents, or undocumented immigrants, okay, have to receive the same benefits, i.e., same minimum wage. Okay, same health care if they're working over the table as a W-2 employee on a work permit for an undocumented immigrant that any other citizen would. So if you see a company that's employing people under the table, okay, that's not giving them workers' comp if they get hurt on the job, okay, that's not being paid a minimum wage, that's not an issue with immigration. That's an issue with a firm breaking the law, so you should report that firm.
Well, and I repeat, as you said it, illegal immigrants, they fear to have. Yes, I agree with you with the law says that. I agree that even if you're
report
illegal,
that
you should get
violation of the
everything
law.
of that. I agree 100% with
So
you.
then report that violation of the law,
But my
because guess
point
what?
is- my
Ultimately,
point is,
undocumented
I get
immigrants
it,
aren't the
bro.
only
So,
people with profit incentives.
let me-
okay?
can
You
I-
deport all the
can I
undocumented
express
immigrants,
my
you're
idea
going to have
again?
some citizens that are paying people under the table because they're also
Dean,
incentivized for profit,
can I
regardless of
express
what the
my idea? Will you
regulatory
please allow
guidelines say.
me to speak,
Sure,
please?
sure. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So for me, I think it would be easier if the government either makes the process, the legal process, easier to get in. You know, because if at the end of the day, we need farmers, we need people for cleaning, we need all that, dude, make it easy. So they can apply and get the green card or whatever process, and they avoid illegal immigration and they get all that. So my point here is we already have it. It just, we need to enforce it.
Okay, listen, my point in response to you is, in order for you to make the argument that we should deport undocumented immigrants because it creates more competitive firms that undercut your firm, is if the reason why they're more competitive and undercut you is not breaking the law, okay? Because when a firm is breaking the law to undercut you by paying undocumented immigrants under the table, the issue isn't the fact that the people they're paying under the table are undocumented. The issue is the fact that they're paying somebody under the table regardless if they're undocumented or not. That's a violation of the law. The solution there is not to endorse mass deportation. It's to endorse more supervision and exercision of authority over firms that break the law to undercut you. All right? Because the thing is, you told me to let you speak. I'm going to tell you to let me speak. Is that fair?
Sure. Finish your thoughts.
Okay, because the issue with this is, if the Better Business Bureau, the federal government, states governments, and local governments, okay, are not enforcing regulatory guidelines, like ensuring that companies are giving insurance to their employees for workers' comp, and then you think the solution is mass deportation, okay, well, what happens after we do a mass deportation? We still don't have a federal, state, and local government that is correctly ensuring that all businesses are giving their employees insurance and workers' comp. So now that the undocumented immigrants are gone, that same firm is still going to exist, and they're still going to undercut you, but instead of paying undocumented immigrants under the table and not giving them insurance, they're just going to start paying citizens under the table and not giving them insurance. Right? So clearly the solution here is to advocate for stricter regulatory guidelines and ensuring that businesses are meeting those regulatory guidelines on the state, local, and federal level.
It will be easier and cheaper to do it by being enforced the immigration policies.
No, it'd take longer and be more expensive, because that costs $2 trillion over the course of the next 10 years, plus the $1.1 through $1.7 trillion worth of economic contributions they make themselves. And then second of all, you're just completely ignoring the second 50% of my argument. My argument is that mass deportation doesn't fix the issue. Okay, because the issue isn't the undocumented immigrants.
I agree.
The issue. Oh, well, okay, then you just contradicted yourself, because you just said that better immigration law is an easier and faster way to fix the issue, but then you agreed that stop. No. You said that immigration law is the easier and faster way to fix the issue, and then you went on to say that you understand immigration law won't fix the issue.
I never said that. Okay,
you just said that.
Can I explain my point?
Last time I'm going to let you explain your point before I kick you.
Thank you,
I'm sorry. It's been every guest for 3 hours, and I'm fucking over it.
I have been trying to be as nice as I can with you. I'm not trying to be mean. Yeah, I noticed the previous conversation. They suck. I'm sorry for that. So what I'm saying here is this. There's 2 points that need to address. Now, mass deportation is not going to fix the immigration issue. You're right. What mass deportation address is one of the benefits that I mentioned is it removes the ability for companies to hire labor who are not willing to fight for higher wages because of the fear of deportation.
You're now
So
changing your argument for the second time. The first time around, your argument was we need to do mass deportation because firms aren't buying insurance. The second time, your argument was we need to do mass deportation because they're not giving their employees workers' comp. And the third time around, your argument is we need to do mass deportation because undocumented immigrants get paid less on average. You've changed your arguments 3 times. You went from insurance to workers' comp to real median wages. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I said, being specific here, the mass deportation is going to address the competition of business. That's one of the benefits. Now, what fixes the immigration is enforcing the laws, the borders laws. We shouldn't allow people crossing the border without papers. If you do that, if you maximize that, which is what Trump has been doing every time he got into, that is the immigration issue will disappear.
Okay, first and foremost, Trump isn't fixing any immigration laws. He's just doing a mass deportation. You will, and you have never seen Donald Trump advocating to make the legal means of entry into this country faster and better and less expensive, so then undocumented entry is disincentivized. You've never seen him do that. He's never, at not one point in his first term or second, advocated for better immigration laws. He doesn't. He just does deportation. And the reason why we see lower levels of undocumented entry today isn't because of better immigration laws. It's because he's scaring new undocumented entry away by violating the human, natural, and constitutional rights of undocumented immigrants who are already here. So when you said that what we need to do is fix immigration laws, oh shit, you're no longer talking about Trump. All right? And I agree with you. We should fix the immigration laws. They fucking suck. Now, the second point that I'll make here is you've changed your arguments 3 times because you're worming around, dude. Okay? At first you said you support Trump and his deportation because your competitor's undercutting you by not getting insurance. I debunked that. Second, you said you support Trump and you support his mass deportation because undocumented immigrants aren't getting workers' comp from their employers. I debunked that. Now, you've reshifted your third argument into you support Trump and you support mass deportation because undocumented immigrants have a lower level of bargaining power to get higher wages from their employers, so then their employers could offer their services or goods for lower costs to the consumer, undercutting the American firms that hire Americans and will inevitably have to offer their goods and services at a higher cost to the consumer, therefore they are undercut. Okay, I'll debunk this one too. You're right. Undocumented immigrants do get paid lower wages on average. They don't have long-term survivability in the market. They could get deported tomorrow. They don't have access to state or federal benefits. So if they don't have a job, they die because they don't have food or shelter. Unlike citizens that could claim unemployment, that could claim food stamps, that could claim Medicaid, that could claim Section 8. What's the solution? Not to deport the undocumented immigrants to where their material conditions will be worse off. Okay? Not to deport the undocumented immigrants, so then our economy will be worse off, but rather to offer them a pathway to residency or citizenship, so then they have long-term survivability in the market, they can't be deported, they have access to social safety nets, so then they have just as much bargaining power as you or I, so then they'll get paid the same wages as you or I, so then that competitor that's hired undocumented immigrants to undercut you won't be able to do that anymore because they'll be getting paid the same wages as you.
I think your idea is too simplistic, and let me explain why. What I believe you're saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is hey, look, we do some amnesty, we make the people who are right now legal, right?
Yeah.
And that will prevent companies to hire for minimum wage and stuff like that. 100%. I think that's a part. The issue that I have is we still have the problem of illegal entry. So you make 10 million. Let's assume right now we take every single illegal right now.
Just a solution for the undocumented immigrants who are already here. I did not give you my proposed solution for further undocumented entry. So
I want to hear that part.
Yeah, making the legal means of entry into this country as fast as possible because 99% of undocumented entry isn't done by people that wouldn't be able to get through the legal means of entry. It's people that don't want to get through the legal means of entry because they take too damn long. Okay? So if we make the legal means into this country as fast and as affordable as possible, then we will disincentivize 99% of undocumented entry. Now, for that 1% of undocumented entry that would remain, That would be for those who genuinely would not be able to get through the legal means of entry, meaning that they would be vetted, found to be a bad, violent criminal, and tossed out. So then the only undocumented immigrants that we'd be left with would actually be the bad, violent criminals. Okay, so then we abolish ICE, and then we reform a department focused on undocumented immigrants with those bad, violent crimes on their records, with the gang affiliations on their records, and then we go and we get them. If they've committed a crime here under our jurisdiction, we find them guilty, we throw them in jail. If not, we deport them. That's what we do.
I disagree with the time, because I came here through the immigration process in the United States.
Okay, yeah, then you should know that the immigration process takes 20 fucking years.
It took me less than a month to get the entire process done. So
it took you less than a month to become a citizen?
No.
Okay, so then it didn't take you less than a month to get the entire process done.
United States. Okay, let me explain now. I want to be honest with you.
Thank you for clarifying that you were not being honest with me when you said that it took less than a month to get the entire process done. Thank you.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Yes. So I came here to get the visas. It took me about a month. It took me 10 years to get the green card. And at the moment, I think this year I will be able to apply for my citizenship.
Oh my God! You just proved my point. You, sir, have been going through the process for 10 years. And you haven't even gotten to the point in the process to apply for citizenship.
What's the issue with that? It's a process.
What's the issue with that? Dude, by the time you get citizenship, i.e. give it another 10 to 15 years, I mean, 20 to 25 years?
It will be next year. I mean, if everything goes well, it will be next year.
When you apply for citizenship, how much longer after you apply for citizenship do you think it'll take to get it?
If my research is correct, about 7 months.
Okay, so 12 years in total for you to become a citizen, right?
Yeah, I mean, truth to be told, I half of that time it was me being an idiot. I should have pushed for that harder.
Okay, well, unfortunately, sir, it wasn't you being an idiot. It was the system serving to your disadvantage. Okay, to make you seem like you're being the idiot. Meanwhile, you're trying to work with an archaic bureaucracy that won't tell you what the fuck to do and doesn't let you know that you have to, grease the wheel yourself to push it along. Sure.
And
you know what I mean? Right? But anyways, my point is, I do have an issue. I do have an issue with the whole 12 years thing. I don't think it should take 12 years.
And I can tell you,
I don't think it should take 12 months. I think it should take 2 to 3 months. It takes 4 months to get top secret level security clearance in the FBI or CIA. There's no reason why it should take 12 years for somebody to become a citizen.
If you ask me, I think 5 years is a reasonable number.
Okay, but do you understand that some people don't want a better life in 12 years? They want a better life now.
As I said, I know that you can get the process done within 3 years.
That's not what happens.
No, not happen with me.
Listen, here's a really good analogy for it. Mm-hmm. I know that if I really wanted to, could maybe eat 10 cheeseburgers in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how a human could realistically eat 1 cheeseburger a minute. But if most humans tried to eat 10 cheeseburgers in 10 minutes, they would fail because they physically can't. Just like the vast majority of means of legal entry into this country will never take 3 years. That is just simply not how long it takes. And then for, maybe...
What is the average? Do you know the average time?
Like I think that you're the average time, 12 to 20.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. That seems to be kind of high. In my case, as I said, I feel that I waste 5 years. But you're right. To give your point, maybe the system should have pushed me a little bit better. Hey, Dean, look, I have things to do. I love talking to you. It was great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, bro, you take care. Have a good one. I appreciate you for coming up next. You take care, man. Trump supporter, by the way. Jeez. By the way, the Trump administration is deporting legal immigrants. Wanna let that one be known. Also, bro, watch what you say on the internet. Nix, be careful, okay? If I ever change your mind, make sure not to admit it, all right? We saw Mahmoud Khalil get thrown into an ICE detention center for 4 months because he voiced an opinion that the Trump admin didn't like. All right, be careful, bro. Be careful. If you do come up here to have another chat with me, like, be fucking careful, because the president that you support, you know, may throw you in a nice detention center for it. And that's not even a joke, because it's fucking happened. Mahmoud Cleo, great example. Also, something else that really needs to be talked about is how the Department of Homeland Security and the immigration processes in this country are really able to stress test the Constitution for immigrants going through the immigration process. Does the First Amendment guarantee you the right to free speech for everybody? Yeah, it does. Does an immigrant going through the immigration processes have the right to say whatever they want? No, they don't. Why? Because if they say something the administration doesn't like, guess what? They can't be thrown in jail for it because of the First Amendment. But maybe they could have, you know, their application for their green card or citizenship revoked. Maybe the administration in power can claim that they incorrectly filled out this one little detail on their application for the green card 10 years ago. You know what I mean, dude? It happens. It happens. Let's go to thank a couple people here. Thomas, thank you so much for the $50 on Super Chat. Thank you so much, man. Show some love to Thomas down below. Thomas, you've been supporting me like hella recently. I really appreciate you. Let's get 500 Thomas W's. Thomas with a 50 says, Dean, today I turned 25. I want you to know that despite me disagreeing with some of your debating methods, you're an inspiration. It's good to know that that a good chunk of my fellow generation are not okay with the current state of things. Fuck Trump. I appreciate you so much, Thomas. Yeah, I'd assume that the debating methods that you likely disagree with would be me losing my cool sometimes. And admittedly, that is something I do quite frequently. Thank you for the $50, Thomas. Same thing to Jay Blade. Thank you for the $20. Who says, use this to get yourself a bottle of wine after the stream, unwind with your girlfriend and Momo. I think you need it after today. Well, thank you for the $20, Jay Blade. Show some love to Jay Blade in that chat. And that is very kind. Thank you so much. On PayPal, thank you, Cammy, for the $14. Who says, just finished Frankenstein. Thank you for the recommendation. So good. I know! Right, Cammy? Oh, it's so good. Thank you for the $14. You're awesome. SJ, thank you for the $20. Who says, sending love. SJ, it's so good to see you today. Thank you so much for that love, SJ. And then Link, thank you so much for another $200 donation. Wow! Link, that is so kind of you. Let's get 2,000 Link W's down below in the chat, because that's insane. Thank you so much, Link. Holy fuck. Dude. Link with the $200 says, yeah, no, Dean, I'm a philosophical debater. I debate ethics and often do meta debating, but holy, I've never gotten a headache like this stream. Even Jill never gave me a headache. First and foremost, Link, that's cool. Second of all, that's because the people that you debate are likely more intelligent than the people that I debate if you do a lot of philosophical debates. And although it can be difficult to win a debate against an intelligent person, it is impossible to win a debate against a dumbass, okay? Because at least the more intelligent people, although if they disagree with you and they have compelling reasons why, ultimately hold to the goal of seeking truth, all right? And a lot of unintelligent people are not necessarily bad people, right? So I'm not saying that they despise the goal of seeking truth. They just don't know how to. And that's the issue I face on my live all the time. Thank you for the $200, Link. That is very, very kind of you. Ashley, thank you for the 2. Shay, thank you for the 5. Kelly, thank you for the 5. Camille, thank you for the 5. Thank you guys. Then Brooklyn and Ashlyn, thank you guys for the 5. And then Monovan, thank you for the $10, who says you didn't need to explain yourself about Charlie Kirk. Everyone aside from MAGA gets it. I don't think everybody aside from MAGA gets it. I'm going to be honest with you, but I appreciate you, Monovan. Dylan, thank you for the $5. And then DD, thank you for the $10, who says the backlash you get for this is crazy. It's okay, Dean. Anybody with more than two brain cells can understand. Well, thank you, DD. And then Dominica, thank you for the $20, who says, sorry about the shitty guest today. Well, that's okay, Dominica. They've been pretty bad, though. I appreciate you. Show some love to Dominica down below. Same thing to you, Camille. Thank you for the $10. And then Autumn, thank you for the $16, who says, your work gives me comfort. I lost my dog Xena last night, living back with my abusive mother who sleeps soundly on a Trump mattress. Oh, I'm really so sorry to hear that, Autumn. We had to put down the family dog a couple months ago, and I genuinely do know how hard that is. I'm so sorry to hear that. Thank you so much for the love. And then Joseph and T, I appreciate you guys for the $5. We're all caught up over there, folks. I think we had a couple people to thank on Venmo. And then, by the way, guys, we're going to be doing something super, super exciting. MAGA Mom joining up in 5 minutes here. Hannah, thank you for the $10, who says this guy is going through the process and still agrees crazy. I went through this with my ex-husband from no papers at all to citizenship. Took 10 years. Slowest process ever. I know, Hannah. Thank you for the $10. That sucks. Michael, thank you for the $4 on Venmo. I appreciate you. I hope you're staying safe. Megan with the $5. And then Joseph, thank you for the $25. Who says, Dean, you're human. You have every right to feel what you feel without an apology. And please know that you are loved and far supported from near and far. Oh, thank you so much for the love, Joseph. Thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. Same thing to you, Sarah. Thank you for the $10. And Jennifer, thank you so much for the $20. I really appreciate you. Who says, as somebody who's had the honor of meeting you in person, it infuriates me when people question your motives. You're such an amazing person with a big heart. I witnessed your compassion and humility when I met you. Thank you for being you. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. That is beyond kind of you. I feel like I'm probably a bit nicer IRL than I even am on my streams. Katie, thank you for the $25, who says, in a world full of loud men with microphones, it's nice to hear one worth listening to. Thank you, Dean. Well, thank you, Katie. Damn, that's a really nice compliment. I really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Show some love to Katie down below. Same thing to Nina with the $20, who says you're allowed to feel your feelings and fuck anybody who says otherwise. Thank you for the $20, Nina, and the very kind words. Then Ivy and Sarah, thank you guys for the $5. And then Sal, thank you so much for the $30, who says, do kick people who are being disingenuous and not willing to answer your questions honestly and admit their contradictory ideas. They are trying to waste all of our emotional energy. Hope you have a better day. I mean, isn't there like something for that? Like where the fascists will try to like wear you out, you know? They're trying to wear me out, dude. Thank you for the $30 Sal. Let's get 300 Sal W's. And then Chris, thank you for the 25, who says, thank you for everything that you do, man. I'm running an ultra this weekend. Wow. Wish me luck at Kenyon's 100K. First thing I'll do if I finish is shit on the right. Chris, you are a madman. You are a madman, Chris. That is so cool. An ultra 100K. I can never do that in my life. Good for you. And then we have one last donor to thank for now, Joseph. Thank you for the $25, who says, again, for putting up with idiots. I love your command of logic. Thank you, Joseph. Show some love to all of the donors down below in that chat. I'm so very grateful for you all. Holy crap. If you do want to support this stream, you can find the Venmo and the PayPal and the link tree in the bio on TikTok, pin message on YouTube, and right there, Dean Withers without the E. All right, folks. We have a very interesting debate next up. We will be talking to MAGA Mom. Now, you probably don't know them by name, but chances are you have seen them on your For You page. Let's go ahead and pull up their content and take a look in the minute or two that we have here before we get them pulled up into the live stream. We're also going to get this pulled up over on YouTube. Fantastic. Let's take a look. So you've probably seen this account before. It's a son who will ask their mom questions about the state of American politics. Let's see what their response is. Let's take a listen into one of the videos.
What do you think about Trump falling yesterday?
He did not fall.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He did not, Nicholas.
How did he not fall? It's on the news.
It is not on the
Yes,
news.
it is. What do you think about Trump falling yesterday?
So there's one example. That's what that video right there has 6 million views. This one has 7.5 million. This one with 5. Now, it looks like this video's them asking their MAGA mom about Nick Fuentes. Let's see what she has to say.
What do you think about Nick Fuentes, mother?
I think I agree with him on some things, but other things, he's a radical nut job.
Like, well, do you agree that he hates Trump? Like, do you agree with that? Of course you don't.
That's a nut job.
But you think all his other ideologies and everything is good?
Not all of them.
But most of them.
Some of them.
Yeah, whatever. That's disgusting.
Okay, so this is who we're going to be talking to here in the next minutes. Maybe I wish I would have taken a better look at, the book of all the videos to get all of her political takes. Let's watch one more before we get them up.
What do you think about Trump being in the Epstein files again, mother?
Look, Epstein so wanted to be Donald Trump's BFF, and Donald Trump shot him down.
I think they were dating, personally. That's
Donald Trump.
Oh, this sounds funny as hell. Okay, all right. Well, let's go and get them up, folks. I'm going to send the invite now, and hopefully we'll be able to change his mom's mind. By the way, I want to put it out there. You guys are going to witness maybe some unorthodox methods of me, because my singular goal is to change her mind. Now, you may hate me in the moment of. You may see what I'm getting at. Just trust the process. Hi, welcome in.
Hello.
I have been very excited to have a conversation with you. How's your day going?
My day has been great. How about yours?
Well, my day's been okay. I started it with nice breakfast, went to the gym, got a good workout in, came home, ate some lunch. Now I've been on live. I'm going to be honest, a couple of the people that I've talked to today have by far been pretty tough. So, I mean, I haven't been in that good of a mood, but I'm trying to cheer myself up to talk to you. What should I address you by MAGA Mom, or is there something else that you'd like me to refer to you as?
No, MAGA Mom is fine.
MAGA Mom is fine. Perfect. Well, first and foremost, I had the opportunity of talking to your son. He seemed pretty cool, so it seems like, you're doing something right, Miss MAGA Mom. Same thing with, what he was telling me about. I mean, I won't share it on live since it seemed personal, about what you were doing before 8 today. Just know that, that's really admirable. And I love, people who care about their parents is what I'll say, to be elusive enough so nobody else knows what you're doing, but direct enough so you know what I'm saying. Now, clearly on this live stream, we have conversations with Trump supporters, and I'll be transparent. My goal is to try to change your mind, because I truly believe in my heartest of hearts that, partisan politics aside, Trump is bad. Bad man with bad policy that should not be in politics. But I want to give the floor to you. If you want to tell us why you disagree, or even if why you support him, I'm open-minded, all right? And I'm just here to seek truth. So take it away.
If you want to know why I support Trump, Trump is a businessman, and that is what our country needs. Our country needs someone to run it like a business.
Mm-hmm.
You getting back to like the old way. People working, not everybody on welfare, not everybody living off the system. I just like Trump.
Okay.
I don't agree with everything Trump does, and I think he needs to stay off Twitter, and he needs to tone it down, and nobody likes to hear how great he is, including me. But he does do a lot of good things, and he does have a big heart.
Okay, big heart. Sounds good. All right, let's go through those. So, your first point, saying that he's, a businessman. Okay, he definitely is. He owns a lot of businesses. He's a billionaire. He's a businessman, that's for sure. And you said that, our country needs a businessman, so, our economy could be thriving again and people could be better off. Now, listen, I couldn't agree with you more by saying that I think the survival and flourishment of the American economy is of utmost importance, because it directly impacts the quality of the lives of you, me, and everybody else around us, 100%. But I don't think this businessman is the man for the job. And I say that because even though he has all this business experience, owns a shit ton of them, that hasn't translated into real material results for you and me. All right? When we look at the outcomes of his tariffs, of his trade wars, of the big beautiful bill, we don't see the economy getting better. We only see it getting worse. Last year, in 2025, in fact, we had the worst jobs report since 2003 if we ignore recessions, because of the instability and insecurity created by the big beautiful bill and his tariffs. We also had the highest level of unemployment and the most layoffs since the pandemic. And we've only seen a decreasing level of business investment into our manufacturers for every quarter he's been president, when it was only going up and up and up under Biden.
I agree with you on some of that. But, I go back to like thinking when Obama was in, we were forced to take Obamacare. And we were told we could keep our insurance that we currently had. That didn't pan out. I wish Trump would work on healthcare reform. That would be great. I used to work in healthcare. Jobs, there are a shit ton of jobs out there, but nobody wants to work because everybody's got their hand out to the government to help them. I mean, we see it in our area. Do I think Trump needs to tone down? Yes. I agree with you on saying, sometimes he does not seem like the right man for the job. But for the most part, yeah, unemployment is terrible. And the tariffs, I think the tariffs will take a long time to work to our advantage. I mean, we're just getting into that now, and it's in a big uproar. But I think if he could have had his first term without lawsuits and staying in court, we would be in a lot better shape than we are now. But he couldn't be a president his first term because the Democrats wouldn't leave him alone.
Yeah. Okay. The first point I'll make here in response is I claim the reason why unemployment is going up is because businesses are going down. You're claiming the reason why unemployment is going up is because of the work ethic and morale of our citizens is going down because of social safety nets. I'd say there's a way we could determine who's right because we can't both be right. One of us is right and one of us is wrong. Do you agree?
I agree. I mean, Everybody's got their opinion.
So here's the tool that I would use to determine who's right. Layoffs. Because if somebody is losing their job because they got fired, that's an example of a person that wants to work but isn't. Right? That's not an example of somebody that's freeloading off the government. They had a job, they got fired. And last year, we saw the most layoffs since the pandemic. 1.3 million layoffs. So I think I'm right on this one, that unemployment's being driven by companies going down because a lot of the unemployed people that are increasing the unemployment rate are not unemployed because they're freeloaders, but unemployed because they got fired from their job. And another data point we could also use to prove this, is the fact that we also had the most manufacturing bankruptcies since 2010 last year. So it wasn't just like companies were getting larger and becoming more productive and didn't need their employees anymore because they replaced them with automation. The companies went out of business. 1.3 million layoffs and the most bankruptcies since 2010. Companies are going out of business and people are losing their jobs and the unemployment rate is going up.
Okay, now, why do you think these businesses are going out?
Good question. So the first reason why a bunch of manufacturers went bankrupt last year is because those manufacturers were reliant on two things. The first thing would be not importing the goods that they sell, because they're an American manufacturer, but rather importing some of the raw materials they would use to create the goods they sell. But then those raw materials jumped in price by like 20% overnight. The raw materials from China increased in price by like 200% overnight. And it wasn't sustainable. They couldn't stay in business. They shut down. Now, the second reason why a lot of manufacturers went bankrupt is because it takes investment to keep them running in many scenarios. A bunch of manufacturers are not profitable for the first 5 years. So they are reliant on investment to keep them, floating in the water. But for the first time in years, we saw investment into American manufacturing plummet. Why do we see it plummet? Because investors were so speculative of the market. Because one day Trump's imposing 125% tariffs over here. The next day they're on all the countries. The next day they're not on all the countries. The next day he's increasing them by 150% on China and Mexico. The next day he's reducing them on Argentina, then giving the money. Then the next day he's increasing them to 25% on the EU, then taking them away from Switzerland because the leader of Switzerland spoke to him nice over the phone. That creates an unstable, unpredictable market. Investors don't like that. They make less investments. Manufacturers rely on those investments. They no longer have that money. They go out of business. They fire all the employees.
Okay, I agree with you on most of that. The tariff thing has been a shit show. It's not, it needs to be one tariff and be done. It's not.
Right.
It's all over the map, just like we said.
And now it's getting worse because the Supreme Court ruled them as illegal, and now the Trump administration has to refund $166 billion from what they collected.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of a really negligent decision of Trump? Like, I'm not saying that when he signed those tariffs into effect, he knew they were illegal. I'm saying when he signed those tariffs into effect, he didn't know they were legal. Okay? And the repercussions of that are immense.
Well, yeah, and it shows.
Right?
But
That's not a good decision. Maybe that's a reason not to support him.
no.
Okay.
No, I still think that his ideology, I mean, he has good ideas. He has a jacked up way of going about them. The tariffs would be great if implemented, I guess, the right way. I mean, all countries have tariffs.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah.
Why are the Democrats so down on Trump imposing tariffs when it generates money?
Listen, well, A, they haven't generated money. They've just lost us money because of the economic productivity that we've lost because of all the manufacturers that have shut down and the people that have been laid off. And then even the money that was directly paid to the government by the tariffs is now being refunded. So you said, why are the Democrats against them if they're generating us money? Because they're not generating us money, for one. The second thing that I'll say is that you're right, a lot of countries impose tariffs on other countries. True. Because tariffs are not always a bad thing. But in order for a tariff to be a good thing, you have to ensure that you're implementing that tariff, not because of wrathful revenge or a show of power, but rather because of the predicted economic outcomes. Donald Trump is not implementing his tariffs because of the predicted economic outcomes. He doesn't even know they're legal. He's implementing his tariffs as a form of soft power to control what other countries do for him.
Well, I think as far as the tariffs that he's implemented, some, maybe most, I don't know, some were to try to force the hand of manufacturers that have left the United States to go elsewhere for cheap labor, try to force them to come back here.
Yeah. And listen, I see the thought process there, right? These manufacturers have left to get cheaper labor, more raw materials to build their goods to other countries. Okay, we're no longer benefiting from that. That's not helping the American economy as much as it would be if they were here. So maybe if we turn around and impose these massive tariffs on them, they'll see that they actually have a larger profit incentive to operate in America compared to operating elsewhere. Okay, I see your logic. Okay, the issue with that logic is to build manufacturing plants in America, it takes billions of dollars of investment, sometimes multiple millions in most cases. Okay, and it takes like 4 to 7 years to get from the planning phases to the building phases. Then you have a manufacturing plant that's running well. Okay, and if the tariffs are not reliably implemented for the long term, i.e. they know that they will exist for more than 7 years, okay? Because remember, they have to exist while they're building the plant, and then they have to exist for a long while after they build the plant and it's running to reap that profit. Then there's no point. And Donald Trump's tariffs are not going to stay around for more than his administration, all right? In fact, they've already been getting cut during his administration. Okay, Liberation Day, there's tariffs on every other country in the world. 2 months later, we only had tariffs on China, Argentina, Mexico, and Canada. and then 1 month later, we had tariffs on nobody because the Supreme Court ruled them as illegal. So because they were not long-term tariffs, but just short-term tariffs, and they keep on popping up on random countries and random places, and we'll probably see that more in the future, there's no real incentive for these companies to spend the millions to move back here to take 7 years to build the facilities because they're just going to wait them out. They know they're not going to stick around. They know they're not going to be there forever, or that's at least what the most probable outcome is because that's what has happened for the last year and a half.
But don't you agree that a president has to start somewhere to try to get businesses back? I mean...
Go ahead.
somebody's got to start somewhere to try to get this back. If not, all these companies, all the manufacturers, yeah, they're going to leave. I mean, we've seen it over and over and over.
Okay.
Just like when you go to buy a refrigerator, you've got to make sure you get one that's manufactured here in the United States, or you can't get parts.
Yeah.
Or nobody around works on them.
Well, I think you're experiencing tunnel vision on the subject, where there's maybe 1,000 different ways that we could drive more manufacturers back to America. And you've isolated your tunnel vision on the one way of tariffs that has a really terrible track record, doesn't seem to be working, only seems to be hurting us. But because it's Trump's policy and you like Trump, you're going to keep that isolated tunnel vision on the tariffs. Well, let's expand our vision here. There's many other better ways to bring manufacturers back, like subsidies, subsidizing chip producers, giving them the money to build their manufacturing plants. Seems crazy? Not really. Why? Well, because we'll get that money back. Because when they build their manufacturing plant here, ultimately they're going to sell what they produce, and then ultimately they're going to pay taxes on what they sell. So we get that money back. That's what Biden did with the Chips and Science Act. That's what Biden did with the infrastructure bill. And that's why under Biden, we saw the largest increase in investment into American manufacturing in the private sector, because it was influenced by the public investment into other companies. So it kind of like set forth this butterfly effect, where when the government helped out a couple companies to start building here, and they were, having glorious results, a bunch of private companies with no help from the government started building here too at a level we've never seen before. And that worked. Definitely worked better than what Trump is doing right now.
Okay, I agree with you on that.
That's huge. What you just said is huge. Because if we're now agreeing, irrespective of the line between us, Republican, Democrat, that the Biden-Harris administration was doing a lot better at driving manufacturers back to America than Trump, then maybe I think we just set our political difference aside and we say we need more of that. We need less of what we have under Trump. We need more of what we had under Biden. And that right there is a damn compelling reason to not support Trump.
No, now that is one reason that you could say I'm not a fan of. But there are, all right, I'll go to this. I live in a state that is red with a Democratic governor.
I think I did an interview. Kentucky?
Yes.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
So, I did too. I liked him so much that I voted for him his last term. And I'm a diehard Republican. And then as soon as I voted for him, oh, how he did a complete turnaround. And he has took off on his rants. And I used to think he was so, he didn't see it Republican, Democrat. He saw us as a whole. And now he has flipped the script. So I regret that decision.
No.
But if
so
there's
it has to do like who he is as a person.
Democratic nominee running for president, I'm not opposed to voting Democratic if there was somebody that I believed in and thought could do a good job.
Okay. So it seems like you kind of stopped supporting Andy over who he was as a person. Maybe he was launching too many unfair attacks at Trump. Okay. Can we evaluate who Trump is as a person? Would you still support Trump as president if you knew that he had sexually exploited naked women and boasted about it and called it funny?
Listen, I know what you're talking about. And maybe he did. And I won't go into the, look what the Democrats have done, because they've done bad shit too. And that's about all I'm going to say on that. I mean, he has said some off the wall, raunchy things.
Well, it's not about what he said. It's about what he's done. If he actually sexually exploited naked women,
Are
barged
you
into
talking
their...
about him walking in on the pageant
Yes.
when they're changing and
Naked,
this, that,
yes.
and the other? Yeah.
Yeah. Right? If he can't respect the consent of women and girls, he can't respect the bank account of the average American. I think that the consent of a woman is more meaningful than the bank account of the average American. Right? Like, your self-ownership over your body is much more personal than how much money you have, even if you don't have a lot. So, because of that, I just don't think that this is a man who could effectively govern, first off. All right? If you're, like, willing to, like, barge into somebody's dressing room and look at their naked body to get sexual arousal or whatever, and you just don't give a fuck about them or care about their consent or that they might not want that, you lack a certain foundational moral value of caring for other people. And I think that foundational moral value is necessary to be a good president. You got to care about other people. You represent 340 million of them. And that's just the first argument. The second argument is, well, this is a moral crisis we have on our hands. Our representatives are supposed to be better than that. That is so far below the Oval.
Okay. So, yes, he has probably, I'll say probably, because I don't know, I wasn't there. He's probably done things as you speak, or maybe, but I think, and we all know, anybody who listens to Donald Trump talk knows he loves to brag. Now, do I believe everything he says? No, I think some things are said in bragging, like Howard Stern or whoever, because he is a boastful person and he likes to make himself look bigger than what he is sometimes.
Okay. I agree. Trump loves to brag.
Yes, and you're talking about morals and values. Listen, we've had people run our country that have done despicable things to women. Talk about children. You had Biden talking about children rubbing his hairy legs and silly things like that. And then you had Clinton, who wanted to do disgraceful things to Monica Lewinsky with a cigar in the Oval Office. I mean, we've had a lot of bad stuff happen. We can't just focus on what one man has done. I mean, they're all, and we don't even know a fraction of what really goes on. That's just some things that were brought to light.
Yeah. So the first point I'll make here is I agreed with you that Trump is a very braggy guy, but when men brag about things, it's to make themselves look better to those around them. And the reason why you don't hear men bragging about rape, SA, sexual exploitation, when in all reality they're innocent, is because that's not a lie that you tell somebody to make yourself look better to them. That's why we know that although Trump lies a lot and although Trump brags a lot, he wasn't lying or bragging when he said that he'd sexually exploit these beauty pageant contestants, because there's no incentive to lie or brag. Now, second of all, you said, well, okay, Donald Trump does have a really bad character. Maybe he did sexually exploit those beauty pageant contestants. Maybe he did rape E. Jean Carroll. Maybe Jane Doe number 4 was trafficked by Epstein to him. But we've had a lot of other bad presidents that have done bad things too, like Biden with the hairy legs or Clinton with Monica Lewinsky. Listen, if I believed that Clinton or Biden engaged in sexual violence, which is an umbrella term that includes rape, SA, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation on top of other things, I would not support them as president. I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, I mean, and Joe Biden, really and truly, that's just an opinion. People can think whatever, but I personally think he was a creep. Now, do I think Donald Trump is a creep? I guess in certain ways, yes. Do I think he sexually assaulted the Carol lady? Absolutely not. I would never be convinced of that.
Well, okay. All right. I could convince you. That's easy. She claims she had a dress with her DNA in it that would prove Trump met her because Trump claimed he never met her. Prove Trump raped her because it's the dress that she wore when she was raped. Then the court turned around and they confirmed it had male DNA on it. And then they asked Trump, hey, bro, can you give us your DNA to see if it's the same DNA that's on this dress? And he said no for 2.5 years. Why? If he was innocent, just why? If I was falsely accused of raping somebody and they're like genuinely nuts, which is the way you guys like to paint E. Jean Carroll to be, and they claim that they had this dress that they wore when I raped him and it has my DNA in it, and I knew I never met him, oh my God. When it would take a moment of thought to turn around and give my DNA to the court to prove my innocence. Especially if I'm running for president. Just being in that trial, even if he wasn't found guilty, would make him look bad. Definitely reduce his chance of winning, even though he did. Right? If I was in that position of running for president, I'd want it wrapped up and done with today with a damning exoneration. I would give my DNA so fast. He didn't.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. But if you go back from his first term, look at how much time he spent in court over bogus bull, and you know it. I mean, over Michael Cohen and his stupid crap.
Michael Cohen was just a witness to his 34 counts of business fraud, which he was found guilty of.
Listen, now, who hasn't went to the bank? Well, I mean, when you go to the bank, I mean, they're going to say, they'll do an appraisal. What do you, whatever. The bank was paid back. The bank was in court and said they had no problem with any dealings with him.
Oh, Michael Cohen wasn't a witness to the business fraud of lying about the valuation of the properties. He was a witness to the Stormy Daniels criminal felony conviction case.
Oh yeah, Stormy Daniels.
I don't know if we're getting any headway here, unfortunately. Let me try to find another question to ask you. What's one thing? All right, let me do it this way. If Biden basically called for the execution of 7 sitting Republicans in Congress when he was president, would you argue any reasonable American should stop supporting Biden? Because that is a threat to our democratic institutions.
Trump, he says a lot of things, and he does a lot of things, but I feel like he has had more Democrats call upon American people to eliminate him. I mean, hell, he was shot at.
Like? What Democrats have done that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, they don't come right out and say, okay, somebody should kill him, but, he needs to be stopped at whatever cost.
Well, listen, if a Democrat did say that Trump should be hung, should that Democrat be kicked out of politics?
I don't have an opinion. I don't know.
Oh, come on. It's so clear. You hate,
people,
you were just drilling on the Democrats so hard, right? If let's say, if the most powerful Democrat in this country said Trump should be hung, hang him, for he is a traitor, should he be allowed to continue to sit in his seat? Would you ever support somebody that said, hang Trump, he's a traitor? Would you ever support somebody like that in your life?
I mean, or at some point, logic has to come across people's minds and say, do we really hang people? No. it's figuratively speaking. And do I think the Democrats, when they holler Trump has to be stopped at whatever cost or whatever, do I think that they're the reason he got shot? I don't know. Do I think they don't need to be in politics?
This isn't working either, because clearly you know where I'm going with this, and it's a fact that Donald Trump called for the execution of 6 sitting Democrats in Congress. All right, so that's not going anywhere. Carol rape case isn't going anywhere. So sexual exploitation's not going anywhere. Oh boy. All right, listen, I'm going to pass the ball back in your court now that we've gone through economics. What's the biggest reason why you support Trump?
I feel like Trump has. All right, I'll go back to when I watched Trump when he was a very young man on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And Oprah asked him if he was talking politics. Oprah asked him if he would ever run for president. And he said, if I felt like the country needed me, yes, I would. I had never voted in an election in my life. But I said at that point, if he ever ran, because I followed him and always listened to him when he was on television or whatever, read articles. I said, if he ever ran, I would go vote for him. That was the first time I ever voted. Was his
Not
first
because
term.
of his policies, or just because he said that, you know, I'd run if it was for the betterment of the country 30 years ago?
Oh, no, because of the way he carries himself, the way he
Carries himself? Dude, he carries himself by calling Democrats terrorists, calling for their execution, starting the wars in Iran after he promised no new wars, spiking the price of gas by over $1 in a month, highest since the Vietnam War, calling himself Jesus, attacking the Pope, threatening to genocide 90 million, right? Lying over 30,000 confirmed times.
And
The Pope just read the gospel. The Pope just read the gospel. I mean, the Pope is right to detest Trump's war in Iran. I could tell you why. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever heard of Christian war theory?
Christian war theory? No, I don't believe I have.
So this came about after some of the bloodiest parts of the history of the Vatican as a way to justify war in consideration of their pacifist Christian beliefs, the whole turn the other cheek thing. And Christian war theory, in a nutshell, says that before you go to war with a nation, you must first exhaust all diplomatic channels of negotiation. And the reason why the Pope is shitting on Trump for his war in Iran is because that's not what Trump did. He didn't exhaust all negotiation with Iran. He told a lie, said they were an imminent nuclear threat when they weren't, and hit him with some tomahawks because of pressure from Israel. Of course the Pope should blast unjust war.
Okay, now listen. This whole no new war, I hear this from my son every day. So that strikes a nerve with me. Here's my opinion on that. All right, he did say no new wars. But are we supposed to sit back until another 9/11 happens and then say, oh, well, maybe we should have done something before then?
So your argument
you
is...
cannot talk to Iran. Those people are crazy. You cannot talk to those type of people. They've negotiated. They've tried.
Well, they
are
did.
a rogue
They successfully
nation.
negotiated. First and foremost, we need to understand why Iran doesn't like America. And I think the IRGC sucks. They're really bad. They're terrorists. Okay? But Iran doesn't like America because in the 50s, we couped their democratically elected leaders. Okay? Then we installed our own leader. In the 70s, revolution took place. The Islamic extremists overtook that revolution and then empowered themselves. 73, 74, we shot down a plane over their country, went into a hospital, killed 50 people. Okay? 80s, we sold the military equipment. Okay, we said, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to be friends. Let's be allies. Give us $400 million for all this military equipment. They paid us. We just scammed them, never gave them the equipment. It's unreal. It's legit unreal. And then under Obama, he came back around. He said, hey, listen, I'm sorry that we scammed you. I'm sorry that we couped your leader. But now we want to strike a deal to ensure that you're never going to have nukes. And they said, okay, we'll deal. All right. That's where the JCPOA came from. A deal that prevented Iran from ever having nukes. Trump walks into office. Does the same thing the CIA did with their coup, the same thing we did with scamming them for $400 million, pulled us outside of the JCPOA, and now, 10 years later, started a war with them. They're crazy, we're crazy. Now, second of all, you said they'd never be willing to negotiate. They did with Obama. Why did they negotiate with Obama, but they won't negotiate with Trump?
Obama gave them money.
Gave them their
money.
He gave them their money. Remember those weapons that I said we scammed them for in the 80s?
Yeah.
He gave them their own money back. That true. He gave them $400 million plus around 25 to 30 years of interest.
So the Democrats are all tore up about the no new wars, and that's all you hear everybody talk about. So
why aren't you?
It's
killing people and making your gas cost more.
Well, yeah, gas is up, but that's part of it.
What's being achieved? What's the goal? It's not like we're going to get rid of the IRGC. He's negotiating with the IRGC. Like, what's the goal?
All right, so go back to the no new wars. Say, for instance, Russia, China, or any foreign country attacks us because he said no new wars. Are we going to sit and let him attack us? Of course not.
If another country attacks us, okay, we neutralize the threat. Now, how did Iran attack us?
They did not.
With the fair use of defensive means. But how did Iran attack us? Okay.
They did not.
So we attacked them. So let's just apply your logic on them. Because not just America has a legitimate claim to defensive use of military exertion. So does every other country. Unfortunately, including Iran for you, right? So we attack them. Do they have the right to sit there and defend themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Iran had the right to kill 13 servicemen and women?
We're in a battle, yes.
Right? And they only had that right because Donald Trump bombed them? So ultimately, Donald Trump gave the lives of 13 servicemen and women to Iran? And this is the president that you support? This guy is patriotic? Stands for a military? No way.
Oh, listen. On these wars and all this other bullshit.
Why is it bullshit?
All right, we can go back to Hillary Clinton and Biden when they left our people over there to get killed in Benghazi. I mean,
yeah, you don't support them, right? Like, I don't understand why a lot of Trump supporters will try to like reach back to Biden or Hillary Clinton to make a point by like saying all these bad things that you think they did. Those bad things that you think they did are the reasons why you don't support them as politicians. And you're acting as if they're equivalents to what Trump is doing today. Okay. So it seems like from your perspective, Trump is in the same bin as Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Biden. If Trump is in the same bin as Hillary Clinton and Biden, you definitely wouldn't be a Trump supporter.
Are you a Biden supporter or were you?
Yeah, I thought that Biden was definitely the best option we had.
Wasn't it his administration that left our people? Wasn't it his administration that pulled out of shit? I can't even remember where.
Afghanistan?
Yes.
Yeah, and wasn't it Trump's administration that organized the first 75% of it and struck a deal with the Taliban to let 5,000 Taliban prisoners out of Camp David when one of them inevitably was a suicide bomber that killed our servicemen and women? What, during the pull-up? Yes.
Okay, we lost servicemen then.
We're losing much more now.
Yeah, we're not going to get nowhere on that one. Trump, I do support. Do I support everything? No.
What about the letter he sent to Epstein?
Oh, you know that's fake.
Actually, the lawsuit got dropped last week. The reason why the lawsuit got dropped last week is because of the House subcommittee releasing the real letter last year. Trump claimed it's fake, sued him. Lawsuit's been dropped because Congress affirmed it's real. Why do you think it's fake?
I've not heard any of that.
Okay. Why do you think it's fake? Because Trump said so? Come on, that's
No.
unrealistic.
No, that's not why I think it's fake. It was told that was part of, and I can't remember exactly.
Birthday book to Epstein on his 50th in 2003.
Say that again.
It was a part of a birthday book compiled for Epstein for his 50th birthday in 2003.
Okay. You're saying this, I don't even know what the letter said. It was, and it had a drawing on it, didn't it?
Yeah, here it is. A voiceover. There must be more to life than everything. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Outlined by the naked body of a little girl. I say it's a little girl because of the size of the breasts.
Okay. So that's your opinion, right?
Yeah. Now, why do you think this is fake?
I cannot remember where I read it, but it talked about when all that was released. I think Caroline Levitt is actually the one I listened to that day, and said that it was fake. It was not. It was part of some. They couldn't determine where it came from.
Nope, they did. That's not true. It came from the birthday binder book. You could actually find this alongside the other 100 pages on the internet, Epstein File Library. We see the rest of it too. So they could determine where it came from. Caroline Levitt did say it's fake, but, I mean, what's the evidence? How about this? If it was real, can we agree that Trump would say it's fake?
Listen,
Can we?
very well could be real.
But
Even if it is, what does it implicate?
What it implicates, okay, is a couple things. First, why is he sending this letter to Jeffrey with the outline of a naked girl? Second, what are they talking about here when they say there's more to life than having everything? Well, we know that Jeffrey thought the thing that was more to life than having everything like money was raping kids. Okay, that coincidentally lines up with the outline. Okay, Jeffrey says he's not going to say what it is. Okay, so it must be something taboo because they won't say it. Raping kids is pretty taboo. Okay, and then he says, may every day be another wonderful secret. Donald says that to Epstein at the end. Okay, well, what were Epstein's secrets? Raping kids.
Well, yes. I mean, that was part of his gig. But listening to you talk is like, all right, you're bringing this up about Trump. Was Trump the only one that was implicated, or...
Only one that was implicated? You think Trump was implicated? Oh.
You're saying that about the letter, is what I'm saying.
And that's not the only thing that implicates him. The fact that his DOJ illegally redacted his name 1 million times implicates him. The fact that his DOJ was forced to release all the Epstein files by December 17th of 2025 and they still haven't 6 months later implicates him. The fact that they concealed the names of co-conspirators implicates him. The fact that he was Epstein's best friend implicates him.
Oh,
The fact that he lied about the nature of his relationship with Epstein implicates him. You know, Donald Trump's been telling us since 2019 that he never knew what Epstein was doing, but now with the most recent batch of release of the Epstein files, we learned that he knew so much about what Epstein was doing, that he knew Ghislaine Maxwell was involved, and after Epstein was arrested in 2003, turned around, called the authorities, said, thank you for catching him, also look into Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, so that lie implicates him. The fact that anonymous Jane Doe number 4, who we know was trafficked by Epstein because she won millions of dollars in a lawsuit against Epstein, okay, in a settlement, privately in confidence told the FBI that she was also raped by Donald Trump implicates him. The fact that outside of the Epstein files, the court determined he raped a woman by the name of E. Jean Carroll implicates him. The fact that he admitted to barging into the dressing rooms of naked women and naked minors to look at their naked bodies implicates him. The fact that he hit on a 10-year-old girl in the 90s when she was walking up the escalator telling her that I'll be dating you in 10 years implicates him. All of these things implicate him. All of them. To an incredible degree. And if it was anybody but Trump, you'd agree. Like Eric Swalwell, 5 credible accusations. Do you agree with the rest of the GOP in Congress that wanted